本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。What's good, Internet? It's Monday, October 28th. It's actually Monday today. You're listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 275. I'm Austin Walker. Joining me today, Patrick Klepek, Rob Zachney, Kato here in the booth. How's everyone going? How's everyone doing? How's everyone doing? Not going. I'm not going anywhere. I'm where I'm at for the next
great.
couple
I've
hours.
unlocked the secrets of the universe. The celestial beings will be here soon. James Turn is the maker. Literally the maker.
The one that made the Eternals?
The capital M? Celestial beings are a group of teenage Gundam pilots.
Oh, gotcha.
Celestial being, Double O Gundam.
That's what's coming.
That they're coming. Listen, that thing ends in such a way that was not too different. I'm not going to talk about the end of a 10-year-old Gundam show. Patrick, the fuck are you talking about? Who? James who?
Man, so someone sent me in Mario Maker Mornings, if you want to guarantee that I'll play your level or anything really, you need to send me a postcard. So I got a PO box and people send postcards. And someone sent me a postcard that was like, "Hey, I'm not into making levels, but here are 2 levels that I'm having trouble with." I was like, "You're good at puzzling stuff out. Could you like give them a shot and see if you can kind of figure out what to do next?" I was like, "Sure, okay. That's unconventional, but hey, you sent the postcard, you use your power however you choose." And so these 2 levels where it was by this maker, James Turn, in which they claim to be auto levels, but they are not. That is just a bold-faced lie.
Wow.
Like one of them says like, "Hold up," which is true for like 30 seconds and then not true at all. There's another one that's like, "Hold right," which is true, but also like not true at all. Like they're half-truths. I poked at one long enough that I was like, hopefully I gave you some. I feel like I got 3/4 of the level and pieced out during a section where it was going to make me navigate spin jumps through. Like, in Mario when there's the circle of ghosts that have a small gap around them. Well, so there were 2 of those going in a circle, and then there were thwomps underneath. And in Mario, you can spin jump on a thwomp. And it seemed like it wanted me to thread the needle between the gaps of the ghosts and I was just like, no, sorry, like I don't value my time that much when I play Mario levels, but I value it more than these levels. So I was like, well, what else is this monster up to? And I found this level that was called Pathetic Music Level. Like that's
Great
just what
name.
it's called. Just and I was, you know what, James? I want to know.
Like pathetic as in shitty, or like pathetic as in a movement, like pathetique, like a musical.
So, you know what? I'm inclined to think the latter after having played it. That I play Mario levels that are, and you see ones where people try to like weave a story, like, oh, here's Mario in World War II, or like Mario having a crisis. Like people try to like weave some like dramatic storytelling, use the limited toolset that Nintendo gives you. I think this level is actually art. So you jump in to this stage and it's got a kind of a Twilight background, music I think from like Super Mario Galaxy. Remaster those games, Nintendo. What are you doing? Like, come on. And I hold forward and all of a sudden Mario like doesn't move normally, and then I hit the jump button and realize I'm in a swimming level. It's a swimming in space level, which is a new thing you can do in Mario Maker 2. Swimming levels are the worst. They're not fun. They're not good, but they exist. Like many ills in society. But they're there, and so it turns out like I'm making my way through. It's you got to collect 69 coins. And I was like, I don't know if this is like a ha or if it's just he just likes the number 69. I don't know. Like James Turn surprises me in all sorts of ways, and as it turns out, so. You navigate this level collecting maybe I think 19 coins, and then you get the rest by collecting a 50 burger at the end, and then you drop down onto an automatic sort of like there's these items in Mario, these platforms, like these little skulls, and they go along a track. So you go on those, and then the track like moves forward. And then the whole time, there's only a timer for, I think, 100 seconds. And you clearly get within like spitting distance of the end. Like you can't swim there, you can't jump there. You just need the track to get there close enough. And what basically you need to optimize your swimming, like that your flutters need to be exact so that you are always moving. And when you're doing downward descents, you're not tapping a flutter. You need to like have timed your flutter. So I'm doing this like
you are describing
sorts of,
Flappy
like,
Bird. The thing you're describing is Flappy Bird.
Yeah. But like a pixel perfect run of Flappy Bird. And all the while, I cannot convey the haunting music that accompanies this. It's just I don't even have I don't even have a clip. You just have to look at it's just
we'll look
trust
it up
me.
later.
Just
Was
like
it full of pathos and sadness?
yes.
How are the
this is
lyrics?
why I felt I felt as though like I was unlocking secrets of the cosmos every time that the music, because it was also you can set up tools in Mario Maker where music plays like automatically outside of like you can do music notes to like construct something in a very like Mario Paint-ish sort of way. So you have this like haunting melody that is playing, but like it's not like spooky. It's just like off. Like it just doesn't feel right. Like, like there's certain kinds of music that just doesn't feel correct in a way. And this music did not feel correct. And the whole time I'm flapping through, and multiple times I would make it to where Mario gets to the axe, and the axe signals you at the end, but
that's it.
It wouldn't get there. Like I would be a half second, a quarter second. It was just, it was a lot. I feel like
I will not spoil whether or not you got through it. People should go watch on your Twitch.
It's very good. It's art. I think it's one of the best levels I've ever played. It's incredible. James Turn, the pathetic music level.
Great.
Top 10. Put it in the highlight reel, Nintendo.
Do they have a highlight reel?
No, they're trash at highlight levels.
Yeah, that would be great if there was a weekly thing that was like, here's the highlights.
They do like a Twitter. They do like a Twitter thing.
Not
where
what I
like
want.
We'll
they'll show
let users
you clips.
create levels, but we will be goddamned if we celebrate our knowledge.
No, you can't watch clips of levels. You can't watch people beat. It's yeah. Anyway, don't start me down that road. We'll start talking about hitboxes. Sorry. Anyway,
everything else all right in the world out there? Anyone else having?
Everything's great,
transcendental.
Austin.
Yeah, everything's good. I just really want to know if anyone else is having any sort of like beautiful transcendental moments with the games that they're playing lately. I feel like no. I beat Final Fantasy XIV's main quest. I'm gonna figure out.
Austin, those words were.
You finished it?
I beat Realm Reborn, the first. I saw credits. Credits played. I'm now in the 100 quest long road to the first expansion. It's basically, a game comes out. You beat it. It's an MMO. And they update it with new stuff because like patches drop, and every patch like, oh, here's 10 new quests or whatever. Here's 20 new quests. Mm-hmm. They do that 5 times before they drop the expansion. Each of those 5 patches had like approximately, I guess, 20 new main story quests plus a bunch of side stuff. It's lore dump time, baby. My understanding that game ends with like
it's Austin time.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see about that.
This is what's great about our era. See, like it used to be. So, like when I visited the Pergamon Museum in Berlin, and it occurs to me that time you used to actually have to conquer the Assyrians and then like march down the processional way to the Gate of Ishtar to like have that experience. These days, Austin can go on his own processional. Of 100 quests. To
a
the
minimum
gate of the new Final Fantasy expansion,
where there are the dragon
by
Catholics.
way of celebrating his triumph of rebirthing the realm.
That is how the game ends. Like I have it in my head that we should do. I have been in contact with one Natalie Watson, who also saw credits on A Realm Reborn, and I was thinking maybe.
I've seen. If you've watched Natalie's Instagram, you're well aware of. Her,
God, I have not seen this
Final Fantasy play.
God, I think that sometime in the coming weeks, after we're out of like the embargo zone, we should do A Realm Reborn summary episode where she and I just talk about, and maybe Kato, because Kato, you're going to need this. You're so far ahead. You don't know what happened with Realm Reborn. I think maybe we should have a moment where we just walk through.
Wait, did you forget it? Or you just totally skipped
No, Kato skipped it. Kato spent a
Yeah.
boost.
You didn't
I
just skip
boosted.
the 100. Yeah,
I
Rob.
skipped more than
Kato skipped probably 400 quests or something.
I'm out in 5.0 and Austin's at 2.x, right?
2.1 now. Yeah,
Yeah.
2.x. Yeah. So, Kato skipped 3, the base game plus a bunch of expansions.
Here's a question. In base game,
Yeah.
are quests split up in such a way that 100 really means like 100 what you think of traditionally as quests?
No, there's like, of those 100, there will be like, my guess. This is my guess. I've not seen this list.
Yeah.
And you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. I bet it's like 6 trials, maybe 5 trials, which are big like arena boss fights. Probably a handful of dungeons plus old dungeons, but with a harder mode, like a hard mode of the original game dungeons.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 new dungeons, and then a bunch of run and go talk to a person somewhere else on the map.
Yeah.
Teleport there, but now with extra lore. My understanding is like that game ends and there's at least 1 or 2 sentences where I hit screenshot because like I only know 3 of the words in the sentence, and those words are like I, the, and Magitech, and all the rest of the words in that sentence are complete bullshit to me. And so this is like they set up a bunch of stuff at the end of that game to be like, here, La Habrea, the Asians. I'm like, excuse me, what did you say? Who?
Okay.
So I'm gonna get a bunch of lore dump shit, and I will say that seeing credits was the strongest moment for me to think I wasted my fucking time. Not in a way that made me not in a way that makes me it's gonna make me quit. Because people keep telling me this is the best Final Fantasy game out there. You're gonna get there.
This is my favorite.
It's so good.
Oh my God.
This is so the thing for me that is like
People told me this was the best Final Fantasy, so I'm gonna eat 400
I truly
hours
still
of shit. believe
there are some like beats in the end there. I'm like, oh cool, I can't wait to see this character again. The guy who is like who is petty as shit because there's another great engineer who like overshadows him, and he's made it his life goal to like make society recognize his genius. I'm curious what's going to happen with that motherfucker. It's clear he's going to come back. I think he already showed back up as like mysterious stranger wearing the shittiest mask I've ever seen. And like, motherfucker, you're the only like blonde-haired white dude in this game. You're that guy in the mask for sure. But like, I'm curious about that stuff. I bet it delivers on that stuff. But this was the moment that it so clearly crystallized. Like, this is 50 hours I could have put into something that was not building to something else, but was like, I'm done. I'm done it. It's out of my life now. I spent time with characters I like all the way through that, not just in bits and pieces. I'm not just developing something that in 200 hours. And that is like as honest as I can be about that experience. It's like, I do suspect there will be a time when I look back on this and I go, oh, I'm glad I got to meet those characters. But it is not now. It is also deeply honest about the fact that I've not had a good time up until now.
You ever seen a man grasp at straws before?
No, because I'm not denying. I haven't had a good time. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I know, but I'm still enjoying like that character. Surely will be interesting later. Seems like they have potential.
Will invest in that character. Yeah. What I
watching you
you're right.
have a bad time.
You're
grasp
right.
onto the things that like. Hopefully,
I hope that they do something here. I hope
people have said
the biggest thing for me, the thing that I do keep coming back to, that is about structure, and my understanding is they give you more time with characters. But who the fuck knows? I don't know that I believe people. In a JRPG, you have characters who you like, and you spend lots of time with them. They're in your party. In Western style RPGs, you get some banter. In Japanese style RPGs, you get lots of like them talking through the main quest as you do stuff. And you get a little bit of that here. You also just like get to know who they are because you're controlling them, and you kind of like, oh, okay, this is what their ability set is. Like, I feel like I understand who Sabin is because he did a suplex on that ghost train. I get him. You know what I mean? I understand who he is. And this game doesn't have that. Like, it's an MMO fundamentally, and so you're not spending time with the major characters of the game. They're bookended at the beginning and end of every quest, and so like there's a degree to which the thing I want most is to spend more time with these characters, and I wish that they were just like directly integrated into the game in the way that they would be in a JRPG, because like that is what would get me to care about them more. We'll see. I am. If someone wanted to make the compelling case that goes beyond Austin, you're not having a good time, stop, because I think that's like, yeah, no shit. Like, I know that's not making me stop. I need a more compelling argument than that. Now would be the time. Like, I'm at my weakest. I'm at my like, what else could I have done? With the note that I am I am excited to talk about the lore of this game because that is just in its own form a fun way to pass time. So at some point in the next month or so, I think, the next few weeks maybe, once we have a little bit of space, I think we should do a minor lore episode about a Realm Reborn.
What is a minor lore episode?
It's a special
Remind
lore
me.
reasons. I'm going to get fucking Natalie in here. We're going to sit down in front of a microphone and we're going to talk through the story of the game we both beat, and I bet we can't talk about with clarity, even though we both just went 50 hours into this thing.
Good.
So
Great.
we'll see. That is my current thought that we should spend 1 week or one episode on this stuff. That's it. That's all I got. Not a transcendent experience for me. Also, not yet a transcendent experience for me. The Outer Worlds, a game I am now 25 hours into. Rob, I've unlocked the big area that comes after Monarch. I wrapped up Monarch. I'm now in
Byzantium.
I wasn't going to say it, but yes. Yes.
They tell you the name of the major capital rich person city in the first
They do.
zone, so
I
it
like
means
it was
you're
actually
going to go there.
I actually didn't think I would go there because I thought it would be beyond their budget. I thought it was going to be one of those things that it's like, Byzantium, it's off in the distance, and maybe there's a story twist so that I never go there because I don't know that they can render it in interesting detail. And I'm not 100% sure.
That's what they say about Chekhov's gun. You put it on the wall, and that means nobody will ever interact with it.
Well,
or address it.
my actual guess was I'm going to show up and it's not going to exist. There's nothing. Yeah. There is no Byzantium. The corporate board is a fucking fib. Blah 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 blah. Like, okay, what is their way of not needing to render a big golden city? And their answer is actually kind of interesting. Like, I do think the little section of it that you get and the state that it's in is interesting. But I am really curious where you are, Rob, now having finished it all the way, and Patrick, I know you spent some time with it. My gut says that we're all on like an interesting receptive, spectrum of this thing, where I'm guessing I'm somewhere between the two of you in enjoyment levels right now.
Well, Rob, you finished it, so we I don't think we talked between you finishing and kind of seeing where the game's arc lands for you. Do you want to talk about that a little bit before we get into? With it?
So the thing that I sort of lead off my review with that I think is an apt description of my experience playing the Outer Worlds is the experience I had with the first zone, Edgewater, was basically the experience I would have with the entire game, and it would just keep repeating as I went through the game. And so when I consider the game as a whole, it's basically the arc I was on in Edgewater, but it now encompasses the entire game. And that is a little bit unfortunate because there was a lot that grated on me in those early hours. I don't think the parts of the game that kind of got under my skin ever completely went away. I don't think some of the later zones are particularly well realized. The place we were just talking about, Byzantium. I was also surprised, Austin, how in depth it was. I was expecting it might be my thought was the solution we would get is it would be a very funneled, not necessarily a cutscene, but it would be one of those go to the palace.
Right. And you can see the skybox. It's like the tower from Destiny. You're in one place. Totally. That would make sense.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was expecting, and it's considerably more elaborate than that. On the other hand, it also felt a little bit to me like Monarch is the most fully realized location they have, with the largest number of storylines that you can intervene in and address. As I went through the game, it began to, even as Byzantium was still pretty large, everything did begin to feel like it was funneling down. And then the end game, I thought, wrapped up the threads in a pretty interesting way.
Cool.
But I'm also not sure that the part that I controlled, the epilogue where you find out what happened in the ramification of your actions, I thought that was interesting. I think the Outer Worlds ended up having some interesting positions about the dilemmas it had laid out and what the actual stakes for the story had been throughout. At the same time, the actual last act that I controlled as a player was pretty forgettable. Now, admittedly, part of that is I was in the I need to roll credits. I need to beat this game mode.
Yeah.
But the other part of it was definitely that the entire last zone, like the game does the Mass Effect 2 thing where, well, it's a pretty standard thing, where there's clearly a last area you can go to, a last quest. And before you go, everyone's like, hey, we might not make it back from this. World's going to be very
side
different.
quest you want to?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got any science weapons you
Got any
haven't picked up
vending
yet?
machines you haven't found yet?
Yeah, exactly.
I went on that last quest, Austin, and remember that stealth check thing that we talked about that you'd only seen the once?
Yeah. I've seen it
My
one more
stats-
time since then, by the way.
Yeah. I saw it throughout the entire last sequence, which is pretty extensive.
So wait, you were just stealthed? You stealthed your way through the end game.
Stealthing would be really like
You talked your way through
like barefacing my way through it. I think is more the like I had the little like fake hollow disguise thing. So I literally walked through this entire massive level. I'm impressed at their commitment, their willingness to just wad up this entire level design. It was like the Panopticon in Control, kind of, just in terms of like huge like set piece vertical chamber where it's like there's someone at the top that we need to see, and there's tons of guards, and literally all of them will be like, hey, do I recognize you? And if your lie check is high enough, your persuade check is high enough, you can just be like, hey, mind your own goddamn business. Everyone's like, whoa.
We should explain for people like to set up like how this mechanic works. Is like,
All right.
Once you get out of like Edgewater, the first main area, this scientist that unthaws you gives you this device that basically there are like various points where like there'll just be a big like security check that you can walk through, and like you're not allowed to go into those areas without someone being like, hey, I mean, you can shoot your way through, I guess, but like basically when you walk through, it transforms the the costume of all your characters to look like cops or whatever, like based on whatever is the theming, and there's a meter at the bottom, and that meter, when it runs out, like it's not like the disguise goes away, I guess, but people get suspicious, and it's literally like has charges to it. Like there's like you can do it once, you can do it twice. I think you can do it 3 times. Where if every time that you get quote unquote spotted, some guard suddenly goes, hey, and they go, what are you up to? And then you can like, based on your dialogue choices, like you can be aggressive, you can intimidate, you can lie, and those checks get higher like every time that like you have to repeat doing it. But it basically lets you go through areas of the game, like behind the back of a hospital is one of the ones I went through this weekend. But it's an interesting. Because it doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean, it's fine.
It's fine.
It's hand wavy.
Yeah.
But like, I wish there was like the writing was a little sharper about like the weirdness of the situation. Because like,
this is saying,
like literally, you're standing there. The meter goes down. They turn around and go, "Hey, buddy, what are you doing?" And then the lie check is like nothing at all. And they're like, all right, I don't want any more paperwork. Turn around, like go through idle animation, increase to 35, 45, check as it goes up and up.
You're still not up to anything, right? Definitely not.
As you clearly are looting like, the back
kneeling next
warehouse.
to a safe, an empty safe. Couldn't be me. It's just where I'm just hanging out. I'm just vibing.
That way, officer.
Yeah.
You can do that when you're stealing too.
From a person.
I remember when Rob mentioned like how brazenly you can just like steal in this game. I was like, let's see how far I can push that. And like I had a moment where I was just like, the only thing I really care to steal is like the hacking bits, or the lockpick bits to get through, to open doors. And so anytime I see that, I'm like, I don't care who you are or what your situation is.
That shit is mine.
Or if this is gonna put you in a bad spot, like I'm taking those items. And like someone hustles over, is like, what are you doing? Like, why'd you grab that? And then it's like, lie check 15. It's like, I didn't do anything. And boom, they're like, okay, sir, you seem suspicious. Walk away.
Yep.
The end of this game is seriously like if all of Star Wars were just Han, Luke, and Chewie walking through that Death Star to like a self-destruct button.
Amazing.
And just like in front of everybody being like, hey, Chewie, you unlocked these self-destruct safeties? Cool. And people being like, hey, what are you doing? And
That's
like
a good
Han,
stormtrooper.
Very good.
Han doing his entire shitty like, oh, I just got this Wookiee, and what are you doing? And everyone's like, good answer. Perfect. And
What
just
am I
walks
doing?
off.
I forgot I needed to be doing something.
God. Besides the stealth mechanic, Patrick, how are you finding the game? So you're on Groundbreaker at this point, which is like the second sort of major area. It's kind of like a pit stop that also kind of
Seems like an
turns into
in-between before you you get access
yeah.
to your ship, and then you get access to the wider map, and you start getting some quests that will send you to different areas. So yeah, I'm dealing with the engineering problems on that big trading post right now. I'm liking it quite a bit, but not like in fits and starts.
Yeah.
It was interesting, like the moment that sort of like crystallized for me, like what I can enjoy about these games, what I come to them for, and like something I didn't find a lot in Fallout 4 in like the hours at least I played was like sort of like the resolution to like the first main quest in Edgewater, which I actually would
Let's just talk through
in
that.
a moment.
Yeah. That's definitely.
We'll just if you. I figure at this point, like anyone that's played Outer Worlds has probably encountered this. If not, maybe this would like give you some insight into like what's interesting or what people are responding to. Because when I tweeted about like my own crisis over like what to do, like I didn't put a lot of work into that tweet, but I got like some of the most like responses to that, like which I think is reflective of like the certain buttons that these games can push on people. So like the main arc in Edgewater is you go and meet the town boss in Edgewater, and he's like, hey, these deserters are siphoning power from the power plant. I need you to go to the power plant and divert that power to Edgewater, and then they won't have power, and they'll come back. I'll have all my workers, and that quota that we're behind on, we'll get back to. And it sets up like a classic sort of like it's so like obvious that like I'm not gonna do that shit, buddy.
Like his town sucks. By the way, the thing that we have not said is like that town is like filled with people who are dying of a plague, and the solution to that is to put them in a house so they can die there, and then overwork the gravedigger so that he can bury them in a like there are a moat of graves around Edgewater as the bulk of this town's
and the people
died.
in the sick bay are so paranoid that they're being listened to, and that the meager things that they do have, like you can walk into the sick, like the basically like the closet that they have shoved the people stricken with the plague with, and try to offer them like assistance. Like you can do like a persuasion check on one of them. It's like, hey, I've got like this medicine that at least like give you some comfort, and like no, like if anyone finds out that like an off-worlder gave me you're just, it's a shit town, it's a shitty guy, and it sets up that it's pushing the player in the direction of like, of course, like why would you side with them, which I should have seen as like slightly suspicious at how like one-sided they were setting up would seem to be a false choice. But that's Rob, I saw you were trying to say something before.
A world building touch I appreciate here is it's a cannery. That's their industry, is they're running a cannery that cans saltuna. But the cannery keeps breaking because they're no longer canning fish, which is what the entire facility was designed to process. They are processing
now, right?
like bugs from the area. And they're like, we just need to keep putting out more saltuna. And like literally when you meet Parvati, she's like, yeah, but we don't have salt tuna. We're just wedging the stuff into the machine and it keeps breaking. And like that is actually setting up something important, which is that everything about this sort of colonial economy is networked and like vertically integrated, but those connections are breaking down. Like it's not that Saltuna went away, Saltuna came from somewhere else. And you go to Monarch and they're like, God, we're up to our eyeballs in Saltuna. And so like I do love that, like what seemed like a throwaway gag, which was that the fish cannery is no longer making fish, ends up being kind of an interesting like canary in the coal mine for what is happening across Halcyon.
And so like where it goes from there is that you eventually go and meet like the deserters who are led by Adelaide is the
Yeah,
the main woman, I
Adelaide
think.
is the yeah.
And you meet her, and she's like, "Yo, big problem here is that we can't grow shit. Like the soil is cursed." And she's like, "I figured it out. Actually, I've spoken to the earth. Now, where that goes is a fun little twist about how she has spoken to the earth. But like, regardless, she, is like, hey, actually, that town sucks. Like, there's no reason to, support them. We should actually stick it to them. And there's, we don't owe them anything. And you're like, yeah, of course. Like, okay, this is on some level an anti-capitalist, critique or a capitalist critique. And like, so of course, this is where they're going to point you towards. And that's going to be the easy choice, is like divert the power away from Edgewater and like try and like just completely reboot this town and pull up its roots and see what happens. And you go to the power plant and like, you do the whole, go turn on these 3 switches, you do all the rote stuff the game is asking you to do. And then there's a computer, because there's always a computer in these games, and it's going to give you an arbitrary, like, pick left or right.
Yep.
And it is an arbitrary, like, you're going to send it to Edgewater, or you're going to, send it to the deserters and Adelaide and her group. And right before you do that, like, as you're walking up to the terminal, like the first companion that you pick up, Pavari?
Pavardi. Yes. Yeah.
Parvati.
I'm sorry.
Parvati.
I was just like,
wait, that's wrong.
Pavardi, like the cheese.
They come up to you and just like, hey, so I realize you're about to go make a choice here. And I have to paraphrase, like, sort of their pitch is like, look, the people in that town, like, aren't in those circumstances because they chose to be. Like, they're in a shitty situation. If you take away their power, like, they're going to be in a worse situation. You're not helping them by doing that. You're making people's lives who suck even worse. And she frames this all as like, not that they're telling you what to do, more just like, hey, like, I've been here, I've grown up here. These are like good people stuck in bad circumstances. You're going to take good people in bad circumstances and put them in worse circumstances. Like, just think about it. And I had went from like being so confident in the decision I was going to make to like the classic, put down the controller as I'm sitting in front of the 2 choices and be like, well, fuck, like, all right, good point. Like that, I don't know that necessarily diverting that power is going to help.
Parvati makes one other note too. She's like, Adelaide's kind of mean. There's something spiteful about Adelaide.
They do. So yeah, they said like, there is a line which leaves in the back of your mind that, of course, you should always suspect that, especially characters in games like this, like they're hiding more than you know. None of that came up in any of the dialogue that I found.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you can find.
Oh, yeah.
So did you?
We could just talk through.
Can you be suspicious of her?
Yeah, I went back at that point. I was like, I'm gonna go talk to everybody and see what the story is here that I had not found. What is the beef between the 2 of them? Do you know what the beef is?
So you walk up to this choice.
Yeah.
So I learned about the beef about the plague stricken son that doesn't get the medicine. Right?
Yeah.
So you can find out about that before you make the choice.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
See, I didn't.
But also,
okay.
I was like, yeah, okay. Yes, that is the game does its best to be like, and so her motives are not truly altruistic. Her motives are about vengeance, not about. And I'm
I
like,
don't know that.
You
I don't know that would
absolutely
have
can
swayed
go
me
back.
that much. No. I'm not disputing that you can't find it. I'm just saying, like, that's not where, like, why I fell on switching my choice. The reason I switched my choice from like diverting the power to Edgewater was like, I'm not from here. I'm like an outside. Like, most of these games set you up as like the outsider who knows everything, who knows better than the people who have had these lived experiences, and that you're the hero type. You're here to make the right decision. And like, on its face, I was like, yeah, like the choice I would normally make in this game would be fuck the town, like however bad it's gonna get. It's it's a Band-Aid that needs to be ripped off in pursuit of like a great, something better down the road. I was like, I don't know if I buy that, like, entirely. Or like, maybe that's true, but also it's going to hurt a lot of people in the short term. I don't know what the medium to long term actually, it seems just as likely that you shut down that power. Corporate just came and turned all those automatons in the factory to just slaughter those people for a reason I wasn't quite sure. Was to say they don't just slaughter this whole town in retaliation, abandon the post, and start over. Whereas, like, well, if Edgewater gets the power, and yeah, that sucks for the deserters because they were building something on their own, but I don't know that I don't know that it makes sense for me to be the hero type here. Maybe I should listen to the person who's lived here their whole lives, and like, this is what they think they should do. And if what I'm doing is trying to empower the people that live here, maybe I should leave it to them. And so I end up like going against what I thought I was like in my gut was the right choice. And I went with what she suggested because it seemed like I should listen to her and not play the hero. Now, granted, it worked out for me, I guess, because the game offers some really interesting needles to thread.
Yeah.
From there, like basically what happens is you divert the power. Those people are fucking pissed at you. And although like it's quickly revealed that the rest of the townsfolk, the deserters, were not necessarily like having the greatest time out here. Like it was like there was a fight the power, but also like I don't think we're gonna last very long. Like there was a sense like the Marauders were gonna like destroy this town any day, and at Edgewater, at least like with its walls, provided some measure of safety. And then it offers up a needle you can thread where basically you can go back to the town. You can find out, like, that's where I found out about the conflict between Adelaide and who's the town boss?
Reed.
His name?
Reed.
Reed. You can find out that he, chose to keep medicine away from her son because he gave it to someone else. You can go and speak with him, explain that, well, if you leave, then the deserters and Adelaide will come back. Because also Adelaide has found out that if you grind up corpses and put it in the ground, the soil will make plants again, and you can have a greenery. And if you leave, she'll come in and she'll do that. And I figured that was just gonna be like a really high like perception check. That it's like, hey, dude, if you haven't invested all of your dialogue options, this is just gonna be like one of those choices that you're not gonna be able to go with. And it doesn't really work that way. Basically, the dude admits that like I have a long history. My dad was a Spacer's Choice boss. My grandfather, he's like, this is what I do. I've tried. The game goes a little too far in like trying to make you feel sympathetic to a dude that I understand. I on some level understand the compromised position he was in, but a little too quickly says, yep, all right, yeah, I guess I'll leave.
How many? All of those graves have been on his hands, right? Rob, you also had something a second ago.
Yeah, I mean, so I had a feeling, I kind of liked Reed when I went back and talked to him, because the game doesn't encourage you to go back and talk to him. Like, you get your quest from him. It's very easy to forget that he's up there in the tower. When you start asking him about some of the backstory about where the deserters went, what went wrong here, there's always this vibe you get from him that like he knows he fucked up. There is a tremendous amount of guilt around it. And the other thing that I try to bear in mind with Reed is that like, he's basically a glorified foreman. Like, he manages these workers, but like he's not actually like the company in a lot of the key ways, right? Like, I mean, his amount of agency is also pretty small here. With the choice,
it's only as small as Adelaide's is. He's a person who has a position of authority, who could decide. I mean, his authority is only as distinct as the people we meet on Monarch. And both of the leaders on Monarch make big decisions about their communities. Like, I don't want to rinse that dude's hands. Or more importantly, I think it's important to recognize the way in which the writers of Outer Worlds do a sort of hand washing of Reed in that way that is like, but isn't he just a middle manager? Shouldn't our site be higher than that? And I think that formally, the way that this mission plays out is really fascinating at getting at when we talk about how a game can have a kind of underlying politics in its structure, things like when and under what conditions do additional options for reconciliation become available. So, for instance, if you choose to side with Adelaide here, you do not then get another step where it's like, and because you are the hero of this galaxy or this system, you can then go back to the people at Edgewater and convince more of them to join up with the commune and separate themselves and join the deserters town. Like, that is not available.
So it just
to you.
ends. Like that's it. That's just the end of the quest.
That is when the thing happens that Rob talked about last week, which is she says, yeah, I'll let you in if you renounce your loyalty to the corporations and you kind of pass my litmus test for being a good radical, as if they've pulled a mask off from her and said, aha, here it is. Here's the twist. She is a bad one. She was doing this because of her dead son, not because she has a big warm heart. And also, did you know about the bodies she's using? Which they play on that path, at least, as being this like gotcha sort of. More than as like yeah, okay, good. You're
Decay
using
is not
Well,
exactly Soylent.
no, exactly. That's my thing, though.
It's
right?
played for like I felt it was more like a comedic gotcha than it was like like I remember I cackled at the reveal. I was like, oh right, like this is one of the things that I enjoy about these games is like little details like that where it's like
well, so then you go back, you have to go back at that point to the factory to get the power converter thing, because the whole thing is you're trying to get a power converter from this town to get it put in your ship so you can leave, and you have to go get it. When you go there, Reed is like, well, you fucked us. I hope you're happy that you fucked us. Why'd you fuck us? And if you go like, fuck the corporations, he says the basic thing, which is like, this is a drop in the bucket. Like, you've wasted your time. You're a naive asshole. If you say like, I just wanted to stab you in the back, he's like, well, at least that's honest. At least that's an honest thing. And then he's like he's basically threatening to kill you, and then you can talk him off of that. And then he and his people just leave. They just like, he just bounces, right? Rob, I don't remember if you went that route.
So he leaves anyway?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I talked him down. I got the I never asked to be liberated thing from him. But I don't know. I mean, the thing that, like, Reed reminded me a lot of, like, a 4-minute factory where I did work, where everything was, like, literally everything was too old. And we kept, like, the factory was going to routinely struggle to meet production quotas, and there's no incoming investment. And the choice guys like that are given is, if you do not make your numbers, it's not going to be, we're going to replace you. It's going to be, we're probably shutting this factory down, right? Like, we're in the cash cow mode of this industrial process. And your job is to be the steward of making sure that we continue to get revenue without investment. And the alternative is we just cut the entire thing off. And so, like, with a character like Reed, I sort of drew a line between, like, he has an agency that a lot of the workers under him do not have, but at the same time, he is also somebody very much, he is someone whose decision-making power and agency have been instrumentalized by the corporation to perform their ends.
Totally.
Right? And so that's where I came down to the Reed, is like, I understood how he ended up there. I've seen guys go through that. I don't like dudes who make those choices, but at least I have sympathy for the unpalatable menu they're given and why they go the way they do.
Yeah, I mean,
I just wish they'd gotten that in earlier, right? So you made the choice to go back and talk to him and get a better sense of that. In my arc of it, it's all dumped in at the very end, where I get all these dialogue choices where I can then learn about his family history, how he's like a shitty bureaucrat who made bad choices, even if like he wanted to make better ones, but he made bad. He was given bad cards and played them even worse. And you can have a sympathy through that, but to have that all like dumped in on you, where it's like, he's the evil shitty boss, and then no wait, 180 turn, feel sympathy for him, and then also he actually secretly understands that he's bad at his job, he'll leave, and it seems like he's going to be banished from the corporation and not have anything. It's just way too much of a character arc, way too fast, where it's like when I slow down, break it down, I go, oh, like, okay, I can see how I could have been walked through that. What I needed was at some point a reason to go back to him before the quest was wrapping up, to get that context for the character. So it like plants the seed, or more of that up front. Like just some reason where like, hey, you gotta go talk to Reed. And you get in a little bit of like who this character is, their background. Not so much, because like I still think he's a bad actor. Like he made like really, really, like especially with like regards to the plague, like seems like he could have been more transparent about like what was going on, why people are sick. Like I think he like confesses to not understanding why there's the plague, even as your player character is like waving their hand about like, do you think it's probably because of what you're feeding people? When do you think it started? And there's an ignorance there that is not forgivable. Like if he's choosing to put blinders on, like that's not bad. That's not someone being forced into a bad situation because they're a cog in a shitty machine. That's someone like being willfully ignorant and hurting people in the process. But I wanted more of that sooner, because at the end it just felt like so rushed and abrupt. Where it's like, I have a sudden respect for you, but also disgust. I'm confused, and I just wanted that seated in like a better order.
All this also speaks to the ways in which we talked last week. Rob, you talked about this game as being cartoonish or being like in its structure and in the way the dialogue is written, where it's like, these are big, bold, like caricatures of people that need to communicate with you in 30 seconds. Like the Parvati conversation you're talking about, Patrick, is like 6 lines back to back that are like, they're not bad. I don't think that they're totally well-written lines, but they are like coming off of, it made me wish that this game had the narrative density of Disco Elysium, because I wanted to have the part of the conversation with her that is like, well, what happens when we continue this thing? Like, what's the best possible outcome here, Parvati? Like, you know firsthand what this machine does, and it's kill people who are close to you.
It killed your family.
It killed your family. The dude who runs that town, who you are now asking me to be sympathetic for, decided actively to kill your family, to kill Adelaide's son. Like, he's going to say that what he did was not provide enough medicine because he only had so much medicine to go around and he had to make hard decisions. But like, let's talk through what the thing is, what the machine is that we're defending and how many people are harmed. Or the thing that playing a little bit of Disco Elysium has made me think about is the way in which this model of RPG limits you to like, yes, no, dig for more details, and special check that gets me slightly more access. Whereas the thing that's so fascinating about Disco Elysium is that it is all special check that gets me more access to more information, but from different perspectives, and never necessarily the full picture. And it makes me wish, I'm excited for the knock-on effect of Disco Elysium to eventually filter in to other RPGs, where I want my characters, like, I want to be able to create a character who is more than just skill checks and is like interests, is particular leanings, that is like, hey, I feel a certain way about this, or I have a certain history that makes me understand. Maybe if I'd had a high medicine score, that should come with more than just I know what this is, but actually like a little voice in the back of my character's head that is like, this community could be healthy if XYZ. You know what I mean? Something like that helps me understand who that character is in a different way. Rob?
So one thing I was hoping for at the end was there's a bit of ambiguity. Like Austin and I, you and I disagreed last week about what the implications were of the end of that quest. I was like, no, dude, Adelaide is like not saving anybody. And you felt there was a little more ambiguity, and I agreed. Like there was room for
the ambiguity
that
there was. Yeah, just to be clear, the ambiguity that I felt there was, it was specifically about what her timeline was. Your initial claim was that she had said anyone who has flown the corporate flag isn't allowed in, but what I was saying was like the dialogue that she says is anyone who wants to carry that forward, fuck off, and that's a little bit of wiggle room, but it is not. Yeah. But that is what she says. Like if you go back and look at the dialogue,
disappointed at the end of the game they removed that ambiguity. And they then tell you how that went down. Now, maybe there's a quest later in the game where like you can go back and do a last thing at Edgewater and like fix it somehow. But the end of the game, the epilogue was, oh yeah, Adelaide didn't let anybody in. Like she like basically her standards were so strict that she
in
told
the commune
basically
in the
everyone,
ending where okay.
Yeah. She told basically from everyone from Edgewater who was now starving and like in an abandoned industrial park, basically. She told all of them, good luck in the wilderness, but you can't stay here. And so like basically everybody died or vanished in the wilderness somewhere. And it was really a bummer because
more bodies for Adelaide.
Yeah, but it was like the worst possible interpretation of like Adelaide. Like it wasn't even that I understood what she was saying, which is we are trying a different way of life here. We can't have people come in and immediately try to recreate like, you know what we really need is a factory. Right. And a hierarchical management structure, et cetera. You can't.
Well, because you're going to have a bunch of people who, since birth, only understand life through a very that they've been brainwashed, you know, into a certain understanding of what life is, what value is, like why you live. So of course those people are going to immediately try and bring that structure, that viewpoint, even if it's not necessarily their fault for having that, you know, because been ground, you know, their brains into mush over the 30, 40 years. But that's an understandable worry on her part.
Well, then the game sort of backs the car up, and just to remove all that ambiguity is like, And of course, she meant she couldn't trust any of them, and so they all died. And I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess I just really made the wrong call."
Right.
Because it turns out that the only person who was like saying that things were untenable at Edgewater and we needed a different path was basically a vindictive dictator on a mission to like destroy that community and the people in it as revenge for her son. And then maybe she would like try to run an ice garden commune, but who knows? Who cares?
This is why I'm so curious about what Patrick's epilogue is going to be, because you did the thing where you got Adelaide back in charge of Edgewater.
She's basically running the town.
So like, I'm curious if she's going to have a completely different person. Like if your epilogue scene is going to be a completely different thing than what Rob and I will get from having supported the commune, because she is now in a position where like, oh, along with that authority, she has corporate back. Like, actually, wait, she's running the town, but she's back in Spacer's Choice? As far as we can, it's still a Spacer's Choice town.
Like, I mean, yeah, we don't like. I don't. It's like where it's left is, you know, Reed leaves and says, yeah, I'll leave. She can lead the town. But like, does that mean that she becomes an employee of Spacer's Choice?
Right.
Like, or she's like some sort of like deferential manager, or he's like, look, I'll leave, and then, you know, it wouldn't be surprising if the epilogue was, yeah, Reed left, the corporation went, what the fuck is happening on this town, and they just level it. Like, I'm not going to be surprised if the conclusion to this arc is like, yeah, those automatons that they weaponized at the factory, like, they just sent an army of those to Edgewater and just leveled the town and moved on. Because actually the factory wasn't making their quota anyway.
Well,
and because like they set up in the universe that it's common for like abandoned, like for corporations to just basically dark like various colonies and various outposts and just abandon them and move on. So like, why wouldn't they? Like, I can see it being an equally dark scenario where the corporation comes in, presses their thumb, and it was still all for naught.
What kind of frustrates me about Edgewater, and I think this kind of repeats throughout the game, is nobody seems to have this. It never occurs to anybody that the corporation's hold on this is getting so slippery, and their ability to project power and like follow up on things is becoming so intermittent that you could just not. Like the very funny thing about Edgewater is like Spacer's Choice is a theory on that, like in that location. Like, yes, they have their killer robots, but that's not a killer robot army they sent in. That's they fucked up maintenance on the firmware update on their killer robot on their robots turned them into killer robots. Like your killer robot is automatically updating, and then it murders everybody. That's what they did.
God, there's a great moment at the end of the Monarch quest. It's like the first big like visual set piece where a wild fucking thing happens that is like that subverts an expectation of when you there's a Chekhov's gun above the mantle and it gets taken down, but not in the way that you think it will. And you go like, what the fuck? Oh, okay. I will note really quick, I did just look up what the Adelaide takes over the cannery thing is. I won't spoil it for you, but like what I will say is like, I think Patrick made what was supposed is the good outcome for the writers, for sure.
Incrementalism wins.
That's
again.
exactly it, right? It is
Patrick,
gradualism all the way down.
Patrick the everyman. just finding the
there is like I think what you will
I listen to the people, Rob. I listen to the people that have had the lived experience.
There is a certain sort of I think the most I will say generous reading I can think of is a democratic socialist gradualism at the heart of any sort of leftist like lean that this game has. And I'm saying that based on what the other stuff I've seen now going forward on Monarch, on Groundbreaker, where fundamentally the game believes that like, yes, we should change things. We should do it by bringing everyone to the table. We should do it by leaning away from.
It's Elizabeth Warren.
You're right.
You can
You're
just
actually
reform
right.
capitalism.
I went too far with the DSA. Yeah. It is Liz Warren. It is like,
and I like Elizabeth Warren a lot, but I'm just saying like if you distill like a lot of like proposals, it's like, well, actually, relative to like like Bernie Sanders or AOC, or like tear it all down, start over. Elizabeth's like, we still need the bricks. Leave the bricks there, and like let's change what's.
To me,
on
it's
top
all
of it.
liberalism. To me,
it
is like,
yes,
if, you know what
to
we
that.
need is consensus. We just need everyone to sit down at the table and we figure out what is the way to resolve.
I don't think
this
she's.
conflict.
I want to make clear. I do not think that. I don't think Elizabeth Warren is like her rhetoric is not like everyone's to the table. Let's get these conservatives over here. Let's figure it out. I think that is too far. I was mostly speaking to like a broader view of like capitalists.
I get
Right, but in terms of like, you literally got the like head of the town to be like, damn, I guess I did fuck up, and leave.
And you did it by like debating him, bro. Like you did.
That's Joe Biden. That's Joe Biden. Joe Biden.
I don't think Biden would actually
across
talk.
the aisle.
I think Joe Biden would get a drink with Reed Thompson. Actually, I think that Reed and Joe go back. They take the old Amtrak back and forth to work.
But hey,
but I think
it is tough to figure out which kids should die on this planet. I get it.
Yeah. Fuck.
been there.
To be fair, Corn Pop is definitely an Outer Worlds NPC.
Hey, also, like fucking, this game goes out of its way, as these games do, to like give perspective, context. Like, what's up with these marauders? Who
Right?
are just
I
like,
know.
mindlessly
Who
killing?
like-
The game begins. I'm
It's
like,
the
who the
second
fuck
the
did I
game
just
begins.
kill?
It goes immediately to shoot this guy in the back of the head. And I'm
they
like,
aren't
wait
even
a second.
people.
They're not even people. It's the
literally
which none of us have talked about this at all, right? But like, you cannot tell a story about colonial stories fundamentally are talking about colonialism, even if it's a distant wild planet. Things become analogs. We were talking about a history of colonialism, and when you drop in a group of people who are just like, what are they? Oh, they're wild marauders who have that we can't speak to them. It's impossible to speak to them.
Go chop off their fingers.
Literally, go chop off their fingers for a bounty. Like, it is not a subtle analog, and it's not even the first time we've seen it. Right? Again, we've talked about the way that this game is like Firefly Light in so many ways, but Firefly literally did. Well, we can't have space natives.
Give me a better reason to kill them. Like,
I will
tell
say,
me like anything.
I got to it.
Like they don't. There's no notes.
No.
There's no, like, whenever you go to any of the Marauder camps, like, whoops, all these buildings just happen to be locked where we can't like put any notes and like find anything. Like the game makes zero attempt. Like, it makes sense, like when you drop on a planet, someone shoots you, you shoot back. So it's like, sure, like randomly shooting person that is hostile to you up front. Like,
I don't know,
okay,
man. I
like,
dropped that guy in the back of the head from the top of a cliff. That was how they taught me how the gun works. They were like, sneak up here and shoot these
like,
guys. I get you.
Like, I can understand that moment, and then like, oh, like you would think, because this is how these games usually operate. Like, at some point, I kept waiting for like, the hammer's gonna drop on this whole Marauder thing. Like, they're going to make me feel like shit. Like,
No.
after but nothing. They don't give you
the closest-
there's
They've been out
literally
there
no
hoarding all the
storytelling
XP
attached
for
to them.
themselves, and the
It's not
only
even
way
that much
to reclaim
XP.
it.
The closest thing I can get to is that, like, eventually you'll go to another place on Terra 2 where you can meet and work with some people who are, like, Marauder adjacent, who have Marauders working for them. I don't know if all of the Marauders in the system work their way up to Sublight, the space pirate corporation.
Are they connected?
They're definitely, there was, like, a quest where you go and help, where I went and helped the criminals who had Marauders, were, like, Marauders were around the bait. Like, they don't even have names. It's like, go talk to this lady, and like, when you do that and you convince her you're going to work with her, all of the Marauder whatever captains don't fight you anymore. For that matter, just real quick on names, Rob, did you notice what everyone in the name or in the Philosophist camp on Monarchs names were? Where instead of being like, worker or townsman or whatever, it was like rioter and looter, and like, all right, I see how it is. Rioting is not a thing you do, it's a thing you are.
So, but I think this is one of the things that really just began to get under my skin, and actually I think it becomes a problem for the game. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not going to.
Good.
But what we see at Edgewater,
Says the person before
my
he
hands
spoils
resting
something.
on my headphones, ready to rip them off to avoid spoilers.
Look, is
No,
that
Brad Shoemaker is on the line.
what we see in Edgewater is again a microcosm.
Yes.
The corporation's more an idea there than it is a reality. It is more people responding to corporate dictates out of habit. Like, the thing that really pisses me off about Reed is it never even occurs to me he could just not. It never even occurs to him that he doesn't have to be choosing who's going to live, who's going to die. He's just like, damn, I guess I got to hit these numbers. And he doesn't do anything beyond trying to hit them, no matter who it hurts. What increasingly bothers me across Outer Worlds is that this isn't sort of a functioning capitalist system where the powers that be are going to have the capacity to bring a tremendous amount of both focus and force to any problem. This is a spread out universe. There's a lot of people on the margins who are kind of getting forgotten. Edgewater, if Edgewater stopped like towing the company line tomorrow, like would the company necessarily notice? And you look around, clearly they've got some rudimentary farming going on. There's animals everywhere. There is a functioning ecosystem they could figure out a way to like go along with. Time and again in the Outer Worlds, what never seems to come up as a possibility is that the corporations are already kind of in retreat or vanished. This isn't necessarily like there's a lot of places where it's not even necessarily we have to like overthrow a system. It is that the system's kind of collapsed. Like, what are we going to do with the fact of its obvious decay and decline? This isn't we are taking the spoils of this well-functioning capitalist machine and turning it toward our own ends. This is like late capitalist extraction has taken place. Everything has been stripped for parts. There is increasingly no governance, no return of resources, no reinvestment. What do you do in that reality? And nobody ever sort of faces up to that possibility. It never occurs to anybody that like really in terms of what are our revolutionary possibilities here, the power vacuum already exists. You're not overthrowing anything necessarily. You're kind of just walking in and being like, well, this is fucked. I guess we might as well do something different. Because who really would come
Reed
and
was
stop
a feather. He didn't have to push him. Someone just needed to ask, do you want to leave?
What if you left?
Do you want to just not do this anymore? Yeah, actually, that's cool. You know what? And he says his options because like you can kind of like, he immediately agrees to like just no resistance, none whatsoever. It's just like, yeah, cool. Like actually, I'll get out of here. And the character I liked this bit in the exchange is like, wait. Like, what happened? Okay, what happens to you?
Do you need to ride anywhere?
He's like, I'm not sure. I might just go beyond the walls. And like, one of the responses you can give is like, bro, I don't think you're gonna do well beyond the wall. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. I'll figure it out. And it's like, okay, all right, Reed. But it speaks to what you're saying, Rob, is that he did not have an iron grip on power. No. He just was the last one on the wheel and was just waiting for someone to say, I'll steer it.
Right.
Well, and he's responding to the last commands given to him by a company that's basically forgotten he's out there, right? Like this is like literally, for years after World War II,
yeah,
like there was pockets of Japanese soldiers surrendering because like they had been so isolated in the mountains, like following their last orders, that they didn't realize the war had ended. That's kind of the position Reed is in some ways. It's like, buddy, the Empire's gone that you're serving. Like there's nothing. You notice how nothing's been coming back down the pipe, really? That's kind of, I think, Reed's position, but nobody sees that in this world.
I'm going to try to push through and wrap this up sometime this week, hopefully. Rob, how much further do you think I have at this point? I have like some side quests to do. I mean, I have a lot. They've just given me a bunch of side quests that are like, hey, go on a tour of the galaxy again, or go on a tour of the system, go to this place. Like, I have all my most of my companion quests, and I have a bunch of stuff that from Byzantium that is like, leave Byzantium and go other places and tick a bunch of boxes.
I think you got like maybe 10 more hours of doing the major
reasonable.
like if there's quests that like seem like they're bullshit, I probably wouldn't do them.
Okay.
Because there are some bullshit quests. But the companion quests I would do. Oh, important update. I stand by Parvati being my favorite character as like a person, someone I want to hang out and spend with.
I wrapped up her thing. I was really happy with it.
MVP, the straw that stirs the drink, just like the chemistry through the roof with everyone, is Vicar Max.
Vicar Max, the fucking god. Honestly.
Vicar Max like has funny interactions with everybody.
That's not how I feel about him right now, so I'm so curious to see where he goes.
Vicar Max is like, and his companion quest.
I mean, I've got some suspicions. We're looking for someone where he keeps fucking slipping up when he's talking about who he's looking for, and he's
got a history.
You got some I did not have a perception check where I could ask him w's going on.
Yeah.
Damn it!
I
I'm
really
putting so much in the dialogue, not enough.
Yeah, he's good. I like where his stuff goes. He does become he's already a really interesting character. I think he's really, really well acted. I'll say that about all the companions. I think all of their performances are like very good. I just got Felix's companion quest, Rob. I'm like, oh, this poor boy, what fucking happened to you? I'm very curious
Felix
to see how
kind
this
of bored me. I could
out.
not get with Felix. Felix is basically like,
yeah,
you know, Mouse in the Matrix.
Yeah.
I got such strong vibes. Like he's just a Yankees fan who's just a little too rowdy for his own good.
He is a Yankees fan, but he's a Yankees fan who also has like, you know, Leninist in his Twitter bio, but hasn't done the work, doesn't really know what that means. It's like, and for me, it's like, okay, well, what are they going to do with this like young, you know, left-leaning but underread poor boy who has been through the fucking ringer, to be clear. His like background is not, he's had to fucking hustle to get to anywhere. And I'm very curious to see how they wrap him up. And I also just started Ellie. Is that the medic pirate? Sawbones. I just started her companion quest and visited some people close to her, and that was fun. That was a good little bit. All of that character work stuff is so good that it makes me. That is the thing that is pulling me through at this point. Is like I like these characters. I like spending time with them. And it was like, again, the thing I said about Final Fantasy moments ago was like, just let me spend time with these people. Let me hear them talk to each other about something that isn't crystals. And in this case, it's like them bickering about the Space Yankees, or about you know, what their favorite show on TV is, or just like, you know, in general bonding over shit. I love how much of that. I love coming back to my ship. And finding some weird shit on that ship. I don't know if that happened to you ever, Rob. You just like come back, you go into your cargo hold, and you're like, who brought these fucking cows in here?
Bison, yeah. Did you find Sam and Ada involved in any role play at any point?
No, that's all you got to say. Now I'm curious. Does Sam have a don't answer. Let's end this segment before we get into more spoilers. Rob, I'm gonna send you back to the mines. You're going back, is my understanding, to the Death Stranding mines to continue working on that.
Not really mines. It's more like the fulfillment center.
Huh. Okay, yeah, that's fair. You're delivering packages. I was like, is Rob sending a coded message about his feelings about this game in a way that might break embargo? No. It's like
Did Rob just I was like
don't you keep your mouth closed, Rob Zachney. We don't need to get sued by Sony.
What was that embargo tweet this morning, though? Like, tomorrow is mine?
What was that? I missed this. Was there an embargo tweet?
There was some, yes.
there's a lot. I will say.
There's a lot of,
There's a lot of people who are slipping on the edges on Twitter.
There's
where they
a lot of line
communicating thoughts about a video game where they're just, and you'll see this sometimes, where like, the thing I hate the most is when right before an embargo's up, people will tweet out like, I have so much to say about insert game. It's like, yeah, you just said you like the game. Like, that's what you say when it's like, can't wait to talk about God of War on Friday morning or whatever. It's like, well, that's
other way. Anyway,
Breakpoint.
I love the world we live in.
Yeah, but there are a lot of people who are saying, you're out there tweeting. I'm not sure if other people are connecting the dots. I know who you are. I know what you're doing.
Fantastic. Well, Rob, thank you for joining us. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to tag in Emanuel from Motherboard so we can talk about Call of Duty, because I don't think Patrick or I or Rob or Kato have played any of it.
I did. Well, I tried. My PC crashed multiple times. We'll get to it.
Okay. Wow. Okay, good. Rob, thank you so much. I hope you have a good week. Peace. We'll be right back. All right, we are back with Emanuel Maiberg from Motherboard, and also Patrick Klepek's still here. We're here to talk about Call of Duty, and also Kato is still here.
Wow,
sorry,
okay.
Kato. I'm just saying, no one else left besides Rob.
Hey, Kato, we're still here.
Yeah, I guess so.
Great. We did it.
Wow.
Survived another round of the Hunger Games.
We didn't kill Rob. Rob is And again, I'm not breaking embargo. It's not.
Kill? What do you mean?
Yeah, what do you mean by kill? Death?
Yeah.
Death what? Death Stranding?
Nothing I can say.
Isn't life sort of a strand game? You know, kind of
definitely.
everyone's traveling and connecting.
Stranded out here.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare hit last Friday, I want to say. Is that right?
Yeah, that's when we got it.
That's right. Yeah, we didn't.
Well, I think it technically went live, Thursday night in New Zealand, right? Like, people, you can do the trickery with your clocks.
yeah.
But yeah, Friday morning for we got codes. Yeah, Friday morning.
Okay, I'm glad we got code. I was not sure if it was going to come through or what.
That's Activision's thing these days, is unless you go to their event,
Right.
you do not get early access beyond the launch date.
So, Emanuel, you've played some. Patrick, you've not. You've downloaded it?
Emanuel, can we talk? Okay, before we talk about the game, we need to talk about the process of installing and playing this game, because that itself is a journey. One, I hope Comcast is happy. I went over my data cap. I get 2 free monthly overages, and Call of Duty. I looked at how much time I had left in the week when it resets on the 31st. I was like, that's Thursday. I was like, even with streaming and uploading and downloading, I'd be pretty close to the cap. And looked at Call of Duty. It was 120 gigs or 140.
So
gigs.
its initial install is 120 gigs. Then
Gotta get those shaders.
Yeah, so there's an update, and then there's something I've never seen before where it's like you launch the game, and it immediately is like, hey, wait up, I'm downloading shaders, which I've never seen before.
Yeah.
I've never.
Wait, but before you get there, hey, you need an Activision account before you can get to the shaders.
This is the craziest
You're
part.
playing on PC, right? This is okay.
Yeah, so on the PC version, you download it through Battle.net.
Yeah, which is not something
Blizzard's
I
launcher.
personally launch regularly, so that's already like, oh, what's my Battle.net, whatever.
The Windows search for applications it didn't come up when I was looking for it. I ended up downloading an executable to install it, and it's like, nah, it's on your computer. I was like, oh, okay. So you log into that, fire that up, so then I start downloading it, and it's like, bro, this is gonna take a long ass time, even though you have good internet. Come back. I thought it was I set it up 2 hours before football started on Sunday. I was like, oh, maybe I could sneak in an hour with it. And I got checked 30 minutes before football, and it's like 3 hours from now, come back. And I was like, okay. But anyways, you download it, and then you launch the game, and it's like, hey, to play this game, you need to log into your Activision account. And I was like, oh,
My what?
my Battle.net account. And I'm like, okay, so punch in those. It's like, no, that's not it. And I'm like, what? Oh, your Activision account is separate from your Battle.net account. Those are different accounts, and you have to register.
Not
you have to have
optional.
an account.
Yeah.
Not optional. It is. There's no skip. You need an account to get in here. And so I was like, oh, I don't think I have one of those. Go to register one, fill out all the information.
You're launching in Battle.net? You're launching it?
You launch in Battle.net and then have to log into Activision.
Correct.
And then it's like, oh, actually, you have an account. And I was like, motherfucker, no, I don't. And then I was went and did a reset password, and it's like, yes, I do. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I don't know when
I didn't have an account, and it even has the same username style where it's like you input a username. You know how Battle.net is it's a username and then 4 digits or something like that after username? It's the same thing for Activision where you pick a username and then it adds some digits to the end. Let's just time out before we get to the game.
Yeah.
Why are they doing this? Do you know business reason? Because they own Battle.net, period. Why is
Yeah,
there
that's not that's not a relationship. That's ownership.
Yeah. It's not do you understand?
I think it's still gonna be direct mailers and stuff like that. I mean, I think they're it's
People are mad at Blizzard right now.
reluctantly turned the Blizzard launcher into the Activision launcher. And then I don't know when they introduced the Activision. I'm sure I wrote stories about it. This probably happened a couple of CODs ago, and I just haven't noticed because I took the last.
I don't know
couple
because I
of
played
them
Black Ops 4, and I don't remember anything like this. And I had to create the Activision thing. I don't know, bizarre and annoying.
Do you have a conspiracy theory brewing? Is that what's happening?
The only way it makes sense for me is that at some point they want to offload the Blizzard branding and just go completely Activision.
I was going the other way,
Yeah.
which is what if they want to put games on Steam, but still want you to be logged in to some other thing? Do you know what I mean?
EA is about to come back, so it seems like everyone's kind of crawling their way back to Steam.
Yeah.
Is EA also going to Epic or just to Steam?
Well, EA's everything's in Origin. They don't launch anything on Epic.
Right,
I
but
don't
you were
think.
saying.
They put out someone data mined some Steam stuff and saw that there had been some recent information related to EA, and then EA put out a tweet with a coffee mug that had a lot of Steam coming off it. And so my theory is that with Jedi Outcast, they want that game to be as big as possible, and the way you do that is offer early access.
That's not what it's
'Cause
called.
I think that game's
What's
going to
that
end
game
up being
called?
like
Wait, that's
really
not-
good.
Jedi Outcast is the
Or
old
not Jedi
one.
Outcast.
Fallen
Order.
Order.
That's also
Fallen
coming
Order.
out or came out.
It came out. It came out. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. Yeah.
So I think they're going to offer it on Steam, but it's like, hey, if you pay for the $80 edition, it'll come out on, you can get it early on Origin.
Yeah.
Anyway, so once you've figured out your goddamn Activision account, and then I'm like, cool, all right, start the campaign. It's like, whoa. So we got some shaders to install. And I'm like, what do you mean we got some shaders to install? And it's like, if you want an optimized experience, basically, like, I don't know, if you want the game to be a playable instead of a mess, wait another 20 minutes for these shaders to install. So I waited for the shaders to install, which is just weird. I don't know. Very strange.
So, did you literally not play any of it, or were you just?
I played an hour and I played about 90 minutes. There are serious issues technically on all the platforms. Sounds like the PS4 is the one that is like in the best shape, but there are a lot of issues on Xbox One. For me, I started the game and just weird audio distortion, just like really strange. I thought maybe that was part of the sound design, but then it became very clear that there was some weirdness going on. So did a Google search, immediately got a hit on Reddit, and they're like, oh yeah, you need to go into your sound properties for the device that's spitting out the audio, and then go to like, I don't know, some tab and change it from CD quality to DVD quality, and that'll get rid of like, I changed some hertz thing. I don't know much about audio, but I switched this audio issue went away. Weird. And then I got into the game, and all the cutscenes were just like just hitching all over the place, basically unwatchable. Like at times would like pause for 30 seconds and then like catch up really quickly, or just jump into a scene. Like it was very strange. And even the game itself had moments where it would lock up for what felt like a minute and then just jump back in. And the game's running beautifully when it's like running how it's supposed to, like 60 frames a second, looks gorgeous. Like this is a really, really pretty like war game, like really, really amazing lighting. But yeah, just all sorts of technical stuff. There's the third mission, when you're running around, I think you've put on like a burqa, like you've put on something to like hide yourself. The way that's supposed to work is that like the game kind of like letterboxes, like you get like, blackness on the top and the bottom. If I was in the darkness, that worked. The moment I like hit any light, and that level's set during the day, and you're out in the sun a lot, it flickered, and it would just like it just would not actually put the black bars, the clothing, and so I made it up through the next mission, and then it hard locked on me for the second time, and I just said, I'll come back when there's a patch.
Yeah, I had the hitching issue, especially during cutscenes, but it was totally playable. And at this point, I finished the single player story. I played a little bit of the multiplayer. I played that big like 64 player mode, and I have not touched the Spec Ops mode, which
It's like a co-op mode, right?
Yeah, it's the original Modern Warfare had it,
Yeah.
Where it's like kind of these set pieces where it's you and usually one other player doing a mission, but it's set up in some sort of neat way where one of you is in an AC-130 and one of you is on the ground, and you're communicating to do stuff. I don't know if this is
Isn't that exclusive to PS4?
I have a tab of it on PC, but I have not clicked on it even yet, so I don't know if it's playable.
Spec Ops exclusive.
PS4.
Yeah, and going into this,
it's exclusive to PS4 until October 1st.
so what happens when you click on it? Oh, maybe it's like coming. soon.
Maybe that's not true of the PC version, because that's common, where
Right.
the PC is not.
We should
thought of
note,
as,
with that note, Death Stranding coming to PC. In
Oh my God.
2020, right?
Yeah.
505
Interesting
games.
timing to announce that now.
Yeah.
Just in time for a lot of people to cancel
hold
their
off.
pre-orders for the weird.
So the only thing I knew about Call of Duty going into it is a conversation me and Austin had when you came back. I think it was E3 Judges Week.
Probably, yeah.
And you came back, I would say you were like very interested. I wouldn't say excited, but we had sort of like an interesting conversation about it. How would you, just to set the table, how would you summarize like their pitch about what this is?
Confused? I mean, their pitch. This is the difficult thing, right? Was and this is what
not what you think about it, but like what is their?
That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
if you go back and read my preview piece from Judges Week, where I got to write about that game, the piece was like I think that they were confused about what they were pitching because their pitch was kind of split into two halves. The first half was we are telling stories drawn from reality that are morally gray, where you're not necessarily sure if doing the right thing is something that means doing the wrong thing along the way. We're driven by characters. We're driven by ripped from the headline style storytelling. They kind of set up the world as like a place where everything is on the brink, but they were going to scale it back from where Modern Warfare got to eventually. Because after all, in the old Modern Warfare, that timeline had gotten to a point where nukes had gone off, multiple nukes had gone off, and they wanted to start from a new normal where even just quote unquote a bomb going off in London could feel like earth shattering.
Right.
That was the first half. And they talked about like performances, the whole idea of like you're going to play both as Western special operations, you're going to play as people from this fictional Middle Eastern country who are doing a resistance internally, and there'll be a difference and imbalances of power across different lines and access to technologies and weapons, like doing this like heavy sell on this kind of like, embedded feeling of a new version of what Call of Duty has been. And it really, again, focused on narrative and theme, and they wouldn't say like politics, but like we're taking our topic very seriously. And then recently they had that Game Informer piece or Game Informer interview where some devs explicitly were like, "No, we absolutely did not. This is not a political game in any way," which is laughable.
Yeah.
Then the second half of that presentation was like, "Yo, listen how good these fucking guns sound." Like the pitch is our technology is through the roof. This is the best looking thing we've ever made. We're doing volumetric lighting and ray tracing and blah, blah, blah. I don't actually think they did ray tracing, but they did like photo. There's a word I had trouble saying back when we first did this piece or did this conversation. Photogrammy or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Where it's like very high res textures that come from doing still shots of objects at super high resolution.
I believe it's when you're literally mapping photographs to models.
Yeah, directly, so that you're getting kind of baked in lighting that's really good or something. I don't know. I don't fucking remember exactly. But like they spent 10 minutes on that. You know what I mean? They spent 10 minutes showing us character models and being like, yo, look at this. The centerpiece of like the gameplay story stuff was a sequence where they kind of like cleared out a townhouse in England, in London, of a terrorist cell that ended with this like dramatic, do you shoot the lady that's holding potentially a detonator or don't you? That all happens very quickly. And it was like jarring. And that was the stuff that was like the violence in this. And the thing that they didn't do was connect. Here is why it's important that our guns are so well designed and sound so shocking and so like you end up feeling kind of scattered when you hear a gun go off in this game is because what we're trying to do is kind of shake you out of your shell. But they show that sequence of you clearing out a townhouse where everything is like so heightened. Everything's in like the night vision goggle, green and black and white. And everything is kind of terrifying, both because people are coming out of doors, because you don't really know the environment, because every gunshot feels like it could kill someone, and not just you, but somebody. It does feel like, oh my god, I killed a person, or it felt like that, seeing that in that environment. Though at the time, the thing that I noted, and which obviously has actually been held out now that the game is out, is like, and someone's going to stream that game and be like, yo, I fucking got him, and like, okay, you're going to immediately deflate that sequence if you're playing it or watching it in that situation. But yeah, so that was their pitch. And then the other half of the pitch was like, and now play some multiplayer, but you're not allowed to talk about the multiplayer because it's under embargo. The one thing that I loved was Gunfight, which was the 2v2 multiplayer mode that still had that feeling of intensity because all of the work that went into like making their guns sound good, but was like also as a gameplay model, like 2v2 is a really interesting like tactical thing.
Yeah. So
and also it's ripped from the headline storytelling, which is such a double-edged sword.
Right. So
Not a double-edged sword. That's wrong. It is a claymore, not the sword, but a mine in that, like, when you rip something from the headlines, you have to interpret. You have to interpret it for your audience. You reinterpret an event for your audience, and you decide how are we going to, for instance, tell the story of an insurgent force trying to free their homeland from outsiders. Who are the outsiders? Who do we see as leadership inside of the insurgent force? What makes them, not honorable, like, laudable? What does, all that stuff is something that, like, when Law and Order decides they're going to do an episode about gaming, they make a bunch of decisions about, like, well, what part of gaming are we talking about? Likewise, my guess of seeing this was like, okay, they're going to make a lot of decisions around what types of stories they're going to pull and how they're going to frame those stories. And that was my biggest question, was like, can they do real, quote unquote, real world storytelling in a way that is compelling? And I don't know. You finished it.
Yeah. So, okay. I was playing the game kind of in one shot on Friday. And Matthew Gall, who writes for us a lot, was also playing it, and we were kind of talking on Slack as we were playing, kind of pulling stuff out that we found interesting. And I think around 10 p.m., this cutscene opened, and it's just a big security wall, like a big concrete wall, and there's the American Embassy symbol on it, and there's like fires and rioting outside. And I immediately alt-tab out, and I tell Galt, it's like, oh no, I think I'm about to do a Benghazi
You're
level.
about to do a fucking Benghazi.
Yeah, I'm about to do a Benghazi level. And I was like, my immediate reaction to seeing that first frame was like, oh no. Like, please don't, like, go there, And I played it, and it is 100% the Benghazi level. Like, they did a Benghazi.
What is your perspective for that level?
So,
also, real quick, we're going to talk spoilers about this campaign.
I'm going to try and, like, not get
okay.
into the nitty-gritty, but I do want to talk about this level because I think it is the most interesting level, and just in terms of design, like, the best design level that they've made in many years, like, maybe since the original Call of Duty. But the setup is basically very similar to the actual event, where there's rioting outside this embassy. It's about to be overtaken. And like, when it starts, it's unclear if this is a protest or something more, like a more coordinated attack on the embassy. And you're going in there to extract someone. You're landing on the roof.
Okay. You're
going to go in. You're going to get somebody who's like a high value person, and you're going to get out of there. And it is... If you try to think back about, like, the impact that the original Modern Warfare had when, I mean, let's like time travel to 2007.
Yeah.
And if you think about what first-person shooters were at the time, there were many exceptions, but it was mostly like sci-fi or World War II. And Call of Duty came along, and they were like, hey, guess what? It's like those wars that we're in right now, it's like we're going to put those in a video game, and you're going to get not a feel for what it's like to be there, obviously, but we're going to, like, recreate, like, media interpretations of these wars, what you see on CNN, what you've seen in some movies, stuff like that. And that was kind of shocking at the time, because if you remember before then, it was like people were having big debates about, can we do a video game about Vietnam, right? Because that was so, by comparison, recent and complicated and so on. So when you're doing that AC-130 level, that felt really like, wow, it's like, this feels different. It feels intense. It feels shocking in a way. There's a shock value. And then, obviously, since then, Call of Duty has always been chasing that shocking...
Yeah, I mean, that's how you end up getting to know Russian. There's, again and again and again, you have those moments, right?
So I would say, at the very least, like, before we get into, like, good, bad, what does it mean? It's like, on that level, it works. It's like, it's very shocking. Because they don't shy away from, like, the horror of what, the storming of an American embassy was, or like what Benghazi was, basically. It's like they go there, and they go further. It's like, it's over the top with violence. Civilians are shot. Children are shot. It's like, that's something they show. And that is working in conjunction with that thing that Call of Duty does, where you're essentially being pushed through a corridor, but when the smoke and mirrors of it all is working, it feels like, you know, I don't know, a scene from a Catherine Bigelow movie, which I would say is like the biggest influence on this game.
Oh, I felt the Hurt Locker all over this thing from forever away.
Yeah, aesthetically, it's like Call of Duty it doesn't have its own voice. It's always been like, hey, we're going to do that scene from a Michael Bay movie.
I was going to say, or from Saving Private Ryan, if it's a World War II.
Yeah.
Or from Band of Brothers, you know, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and here it's basically the same thing, but they've switched over from doing Michael Bay to doing Catherine Bigelow. Okay. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about in that
was the promise that they were sort of making.
Yeah.
Because they want you to, I mean, there's the sad soldier or the like, hey, let's emphasize the ways in which there's an emotional or psychological cost to walking the line and never knowing if you're doing the right thing and like being exposed to a sort of violence.
So I don't think they do that.
Oh, okay.
They don't do that. They just
do like stylization.
Yeah, it's just pure like cinematography.
So that's like what? Like that is like lots of obstructive smoke, lots of like very like hyperactive sequences where like so much is going on that you can't get a read on your surroundings,
and like less soundtrack, right? So it's like there's less.
There's no there's
less of a score. It's more like tense, quiet with like explosions of violence.
Yeah. Okay.
And the whole game is in that style, and I find it to be effective.
But what's it effective at doing? Like, is it effective at just like being a good action game? Basically,
I mean, it's that. It's also effective in terms of sense that like. While they've been chasing that shock factor for so long, it hasn't really worked. Mm-hmm. It's like I don't think it's like you can set off a nuclear bomb once, but then if you set off 2 in the next game or 3 in the game after that, and then you go to space, and then like you know what I mean? It's just like it doesn't work. And I would say here at least works in like, oh holy shit, I can't believe they did this. So it works on that level, but. In terms of like, what does it mean to do it? Like,
that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, I'm not surprised that they did it effectively because what I saw was well made. Do you know what I mean? It seems like well crafted people who know how to make shooters, people who understand how to use the cinematic language of video games, like in the sense of like how they move you through a space to tell a visual. I guess the visual storytelling language of video games is really what I mean. Though also some cinematic language in terms of lighting and stuff like that. But yeah, what does that the faux Benghazi level leave you with when you leave? Like, what is again, when you rip something from the headlines, you interpret it for your audience.
Yeah.
What is the audience interpretation of Benghazi that you left with from their version of it?
Yeah, I think so. When they say this is not a political game, I think what they're saying is like, we don't like want to get into it.
Oh yeah, of course.
But obviously, that doesn't work, as you said.
Yeah.
And I think...
I mean, this is also the game that straight up misuses, I guess, displaces the highway of death from a particular war crime.
It's their own mythology. They're reinterpreting events. It's their own canon. You cannot hold that against. They're allowed to do what they want.
What about Haditha then? What about that?
But also, women can't hold guns. It needs to be historically accurate.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So people who didn't see this. This is one of the things that happens in the game. Is it just the highway of death? Also, basically.
So this is.
For people who don't know, there was a moment in the Gulf War where U.S. forces continued to attack retreating Iraqi forces as they left Kuwait in an action that American politicians, a former Secretary of State or a former Secretary of Defense, I don't remember what his role had been, straight up like wrote a book about how it was a war crime. The international community was not pleased with the way we handled it. You can debate the Geneva Conventions a lot, but like these are not people who were fighting.
Debate me.
Yeah, like I'm not going to, because it turns out if something is or isn't a war crime, basically adds up to like, does the person who committed it have enough force behind them to defend themselves from that, or to ignore that allegation? Basically, that is how this shit gets determined. But that was a real thing that happened. Mm-hmm. It is hard to call something a blemish when the whole arm is bruised, but it is a blemish on the record of the American military to this day. And in this game, it sounds like Russia did it.
In the fiction of this game, it's a Russian war crime.
Well, because in the fiction of this universe, Russia did everything. Like this game has like no interest in even like.
For a game that's about great shit,
but this is also true of like Call of Duty as a whole,
Yeah.
from which like how they treat
absolutely.
the American military, which is like they never do anything wrong. Like whatever something like goes awry, like there's a personally reasonable, like you know what I mean. Like it has, it doesn't like I don't expect Call of Duty, which is a Michael Bay rah. Even if this one is like a little more like self-serious.
That's an important way.
I never expect it to be like a grand critique of like the military industrial complex and America's participation and like overpowering influence over, but it's like a little weird, especially like 2019. They're like, can't just like a little bit, just like every once in a while be like, we did. Sometimes we're the baddies. Like just no interest whatsoever.
No one in this game
like,
goes, funny that we call it that because we already call a different thing the Highway of Death from when we massacred people.
Yeah. So I think
it feels like a game like ripped from like #resistance like Russia conspiracy.
Yeah.
Like
Seth
it feels
Abramson
like
wrote this game actually.
Yes. Like I mean, like it feels a little bit like that in which like it's just a convenient foe. And around the time that this game was probably being like its narrative being constructed, like in the throes of the 2016, you know what I mean? Like I'm not saying that's what is actually.
But that's how you get a Benghazi
in this game.
That's
how you get a Benghazi.
You played this game.
The way I think you get a Benghazi level, and the way I think you get this Highway of Death situation, where they take something the American army did and transpose it to the Russians, which is. They can do whatever, dude. It's like in the game, it's like they can do gas attacks, war crimes. It's like there's a waterboarding scene, but it's not the Americans doing it. It's like it's the Russians doing it. So that happens. But the way I think that happens, and the way I think the Benghazi level happens, is like somebody in art or somebody in level design like does a Google search for like fucked up war shit. You know what I mean? And it's like, and what comes up is that image, and they just take the image and they're like build a level around this. You know what I mean?
Which is like for me, it's like that's like deeply irresponsible.
It is, of course.
Which you don't get to. The thing that when you're willing to be like our game doesn't have a politics. You're able to just be like, just find some fucked up war shit. But when you admit to yourself the thing we're making is going to have a fucking politics, you put yourself in the path that at least goes, and hey, maybe we're not going to make a political like didactic here, but we should be cautious about what we bring into the thing. And I don't know. It is frustrating because that is the most generous reading we can give is they typed in fucked up war shit, found some. We're like, well, both these flags are red, white, and blue. Fuck it, it's Russia now. And like we ran with it. You know what I mean? So but there is a much less like generous reading, which is like Russia really connects with people, right? People fucking don't trust Russia at all. What good villains we got on our hands. What are the highlight reel? What's the highlight reel of fucked up shit? That Haditha, the white phosphorus, like just boom, boom, boom. Russia, done. Boom. Yeah. Which, again, Russia is like, as a state, is a terrible oligarchy that has used its military in terrible ways. I'm not doing any sort of like cleansing of Russia's history, but there is a way in which Russia is deployed, similarly to the way we talk about China being deployed as a sort of whataboutism that
the
pulls
search
the
for
camera
new Nazis.
away. Exactly.
You need you need like a black and white villain who has no complexity, so that you feel fine
mowing them down. Which is tough in a game. In a game that has sold itself both in its pitches and in its commercials as being like things aren't always so black and white.
What they mean by that, what that comes down to, is the game. They gave the country a fictional name, but this is like a game about Syria. Like the country is Syria, and it's a civil war in Syria. And one of the playable characters, who I think is really well rendered and like there's some good voice acting. It's like she's pretty interesting compared to everyone else. She's basically, I'm sorry if I'm getting this wrong, but a YPG soldier. You know, like the Kurds who have a lot of women on the front line, and it's not literally using those names, but blatantly like the look of the uniform, the way she braids her hair, her backstory is very much based on that. And that gray is about which of the is about which of the rebels in this country are the good rebels and which are the bad rebels.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? And when America decides to help this side or that side, it's like that's where it gets great. The real politics of the game that is not discussed but is in effect what the game is saying is American hegemony at all costs, unquestionable. That is the starting point. Like everything comes out and everything is based upon the assumption that if we're not in complete control of everything, of our side, of the Syrian civil war, of what the Russians are doing, of what all these different factions in like the rebels are doing, it's like the only way it works is like if we decide what's going on.
Right, because otherwise it will reach us. It will reach the West if America is not in control.
Correct.
And that is like the justification.
Right.
We build walls around them instead of building walls around us.
Right.
Because that is the way.
And there's all the cliches of like Price is like, you know,
Price being like the captain of this like unit. That
and across the entire Call of Duty, like going back to the World War II stuff, he's like the face of the series. And his line is like
his mutton chops.
Yeah. We get dirty to keep the rest of the world clean.
My hands look like this. So
yeah. So that's the line. So that's the politics of the game that is like what the game is actually saying, even though they are saying that they're not saying anything.
Yeah.
I do want to say, speaking of like being generous to them, Matteo Bittanti, who I took a class with in college and is like a game studies person. He runs the game studies magazine publication. I don't know what to call it. It's like an internet thing.
Yeah.
But he's an academic. And I remember one time I had to write a review. God, please, people listening, don't go Google this because it's terrible. But I had to write something about Call of Duty for Kill Screen. Mm-hmm. And I was like really stuck. I didn't know what to say. And he was like, a good trick to pull on yourself is to like be overly generous to the makers of the game and like try, despite what the game is, try to read it as subversive. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
like insist on it. Like if you had to say, how is this game being subversive? Write that review, right? And there's problems with that, but it's just like an interesting way. It's an interesting.
There are when it's like a game that you know is like tightly tied up with like the arms industry and the American government, and
but
is explicitly also the product of like a big multinational, you know, corporation which just fired all of those people and not the Modern Warfare people, but you remember what those layoffs look like this year,
of course.
Anyway,
but it's like when you try to read it that way, it's like, I don't know. You're almost psychoanalyzing them.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like I'm not interested in psychoanalyzing the developers.
Mm-hmm.
I am interested in. I think that it is generative to do a subversive reading of a text,
right?
Because it makes you start thinking about parts of the game that you would otherwise have just like papered over.
Yeah.
In the attempt of performing a subversive reading or an alternative reading or an oppositional reading, you end up seeing the structure in a fuller way. And then what you end up doing is after you've done all those readings, you can kind of take a step back and go like, okay, well now that I know the shape of the thing, let me weigh in critically. It's like the critical apparatus at work. That is the way it should work.
Yeah.
But also, one of those readings should be contextualizing in a history of ongoing American violence, in which this is one more drop in the bucket of media renditions that, because of the increased degree of transparency from which we have seen what the cost of media or of military violence is, the reaction across media representations, looking at people like Catherine Bigelow, looking at the ways in which war are replicated in things like Generation Kill, like there is an entire apparatus that is trying to filter and wash over our own disgust with the American military system, because we can no longer do post-war era rah we saved the day, and so how do we do that? And this is one of the bricks in that wall, right?
I think,
but none of that is conscious. Like that is a machine functioning.
Yeah,
so, I mean, some of it is conscious, but like to some degree, that is a broader cultural process by which we make it okay for us to live in a country that has a huge active military, because we now tell stories about how fucked up war is.
Yeah. I mean, but that's exactly it. Because I'm still mulling this over. I'm still thinking about it. I want to write about it. But when I'm trying to do a subversive reading, there's something about this game. Whereas, again, if you look at the history of Call of Duty and going back to Medal of Honor of all that, it's like this is not accurate, but we tend to look at history in chapters, right? So you have the World War II game, and that was about World War II, which was like this contained event in history that you can put in a game and be like, here's the game about that.
Yeah.
And then you do one about Vietnam, and they did one about the Cold War.
This is the
Vietnam.
Cold War. This is the yeah.
And there's something about this going back to it more than a decade later, and it's like the initial shock of like we're going to do. Like we have started on this new chapter in American history that is these wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and we're going to make a game about it now. And then they spend a decade like, one-upping each other and going into space and going back to World War II. And after all this time, they come back to the same wars and make another game that's like rebooting the wars. And it's like at this point we have a name for it. It's the Forever War.
Right. We talked about this when I wrote that piece in the summer.
And I'm still trying to articulate like why the game is making me feel this way, but there's like a tacit admission that it's like this is now not a chapter, and this is not like we won't be able to. We're at a point where we're not going to be able to look back and be like, oh, this was the Iraq and Afghanistan war, right? It's like we're at this new phase where this is just a feature of life that we live with, and we'll seemingly continue to live with forever. And the game is communicating that, I think, just by the fact that it's been more than a decade, and it's doing the Benghazi level, which, you know what I mean, is already like canonized in a way, right? And it's doing, this is a really weird part where there's a Bin Laden raid thing. And what's really weird is I played that level, and it's very clearly, again, based on the Bigelow movie Zero
Dark 30?
I think it's Zero Dark 30.
Yeah.
Like same shot, same like setup, you know what I mean? It looks like whatever. And then the next day, Trump talked about how the American like special forces killed Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. And the way they embellished the Bin Laden raid in the game is exactly how the U.S. Army is saying that the al-Baghdadi thing went down. So it's like the things that they added to
the game to embellish
happened the next day in reality, according to them. We don't know.
I mean, that is the thing, right? Like, that is the underlying thing is like, well, it can't just be like we did Bin Laden again.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it's like then there's this like life imitating art, you know what I mean? It's just like, but it's like now at this point where it's like, it's not like a game that is chronicling history. It's just like these two parallel tracks of like the Call of Duty, you know what I mean, Forever War and our real Forever War, and it's just like they're happening at the same time, and it's just like this is
like is the takeaway the call. Can it imagine a time after the Forever War?
No.
Okay.
This is
even if American hegemony had been even more fully established at the end of this game, and I'm not asking you to spoil the end of this game, but it is not like there will always be more fights to have.
Always.
Don't worry, Al. There will be another war soon,
buddy.
Right, I know. Right.
No, but there's the Civil War.
Wait, can we have a sequel until they find out they type more fucked up war shit and get different shit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They'll find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The nukes will drop in the next one.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. It's like, it's not only unable to imagine a time after these Forever Wars, it's like even like the Syrian equivalent that they've set up, it's not like it's driving towards like, you know, reconciliation or peace or like rebuilding. It's like, no, this place is forever going to be fighting. And we're always going to be involved in it. And Russia is always going to be involved in it. And we're just going to keep doing this forever. And it's not even in question. It's just like, this is what it is. It's like, this is our world. Our world is like endless war and these conflicts that we don't even understand. And like, yeah.
To which degree the kind of subversive reading you're pursuing is that like even the game logic can't imagine a resolution following these sorts of actions.
Yeah. Right. The original Call of Duty...
Which is not their intention necessarily, but that is what the logic ends up suggesting.
But the original Call of Duty series, by going to these like nonsensical, over-the-top imaginations about like how the Forever War will unfold, at least reached a conclusion. It ends. It's like nuclear bombs go off, Europe is invaded, like all this crazy shit happened, but it ends. Like the end, credits roll.
I got a fucking fake McDonald's in that game.
Yeah. Right? And it's like, now we're at a point like, no, it's like that's not going to happen. It's like we're just going to this is going to keep going forever. Yeah.
We've
they rebooted it. Like they said like, shit, we sort of ran like we don't even want to draw. We don't even want to write a conclusion. Let's just go back to the beginning and then just start the race all over again.
Yeah, totally.
And there's something really like depressing and I don't know, like there's something there.
Yeah. I'm curious about it. I'm buy it on clearance curious about it more than I'm spend $60 when it comes out.
It seems like the first campaign worth playing in a while, and what I mean by that is like caveat and like what does it mean to be like worth playing? Like it's fascinating in what it's attempting to do. It is also like, I mean, I said it at the top, like it's gorgeous. Like the lighting in this game, like they managed to, despite having played a billion of these games, seen so many things blow up. There are like moments of genuine awe in which like you can see them. There's a world where like they're using technical prowess to inspire awe in me to generate a reaction out of a player that has been so numbed to seeing this that maybe they can. That itself is saying something, and I'll be curious what they do with it. You know, I don't see it doesn't do anything with it. It's more just like watching that factory blow up and those people are on fire was like. It awed me, but it didn't pick up the pieces of that awe and then like, and here's what we're doing with this reaction. It was like, it's a reaction in service of the reaction as opposed to reaction in service of, and here's what you should do with that reaction. And so, it's very pretty. I mean, and I think Emanuel is right. Like some of the technical stuff in which like, there are like just like sort of sequences that otherwise would be very rote where like you're in darkness. They're scary as fuck. Like they have legitimate tension as you're just like exploring a dark warehouse in a way that I haven't felt in games like that in a long time. But it mostly just feels like a series of isolated sequences that I could point to you and go, oh, that's interesting because of X. That's interesting because of Y. Now, granted, I can't watch these cutscenes because they don't load on my machine. But even in the hour and a half I've played, I get the sense that it like isolated bits that feel very powerful, but don't seem to be like wrapping into a more coherent whole in that it's telling an emotionally resonant story for the player in terms of what takeaways they should have about the stories they're interacting with. It's like, it's powerful, but it's not like capital P powerful. It's just like a series of moments that are interesting, but I don't know what they collectively add up to.
Yeah, I mean, it just like, it's always been, the structure of the game has always been like a sequence of like, oh shit moments. And I agree it doesn't add up to anything, but I at least want to give them credit in the sense that it's like they've been trying to do that for many years, and I think it hasn't worked. And here, I did go like, oh shit, I can't, like, there's a moment in that Benghazi level where it's like you go through the embassy, you retreat back to this alley, and you're defending your position. There's just like waves of people coming, and I was like at some point looking at how many bullets I had left, and I was looking at like, oh, what other gun can I pick up to like survive this like next wave? And I was like, oh, there's nothing. And it's just as I was like thinking to myself like, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. It's like Price.
Oh, right.
Price turned to me, like he turns to my character and he's like, listen, it's like, forget the mission. It's like we're just trying to like make it now. And it was a good moment, like a good pacing thing where it's like the character in the game was kind of commenting on what I as a player was feeling. So it's like they pull off those moments, but yeah, like you say, Patrick, it doesn't add up to anything.
And look,
meaningful.
You know, the Call of Duty has been building to this moment for a long time. You can finally shoot a baby.
I mean, not far off. Actually.
That moment almost happens in that tower sequence that they showed. In the
right.
What do you call it? The
you can't.
townhouse.
No, you could shoot a baby in this game, and then you fail the mission.
Okay.
Like there's go look it up. I'm not gonna look
it up.
If you want to go spoil that sequence for you, I'm just saying the article. I think Eurogamer did like a write up on like
the baby shooting article.
Once you start unpacking like the meetings that had to happen for like a sequence like that and how it plays out, like just rub temple.
I would like somebody to unpack, because sometimes you shoot a civilian and it's like, hey man, no shooting civilians, game over. But then sometimes you shoot a civilian, but it's like, oh, they were reaching for something. And I would just like, what is the binary like on-off switch to?
Or in the London area, like which is I think like the second or third level in the game, which is where there's a terrorist attack in London, and like it's supposed to be like shit's crazy, like run around, and like that all happens in the first like minute of the stage, and like there's smoke everywhere, like you can barely see anything. Like it's meant to like cause like a 9/11 style, like you are just running around like just trying to survive. You don't know where the enemies are coming from. It's meant to be chaotic and you're not sure where to put your gun. And so like 30 seconds into that, I'm like, fuck, I don't looks like there's some enemies over there, like through the smoke, like pulled the trigger and like accidentally shot a civilian. The game's like, game over, bro. Like, don't shoot civilians. And I'm like, actually, like in this scenario, isn't it more likely that there is going to be accidental, like what is more naturalistic in this scenario is that sure, if you want to point out that like I killed a civilian, like make that point and have that weigh on me emotionally, that like in the fervor to pull left trigger, right trigger, like I just shot a person trying to hide, but it's completely, it's imaginable that would happen. The civilian crossfire would occur when people are just trying to survive and they don't even know where to shoot their gun. So it's like very strange for the game to be like, it's one thing if like I'm running through a house, in Syria or whatever, and like I'm just gonna shoot this mother, and the game's like, hey, come on, like what are you doing? Like it's like something quite different to be like, in the fog of war, like bad shit's going to happen, and that should be like built into the game in some degree. Yeah. But I think Emanuel, like you said, the binary is like very strange. Like at a certain point, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I get the game is like you can't be the hero if you're going around killing all the civilians. If you're like going like that is. I see how they're caught in like a trap.
I'm so sure they fucking tried it, and they're like, we're gonna get streams where people count up how many civilians they can kill.
Yeah.
Collect them all,
right,
or whatever.
Right.
But it does.
But I don't know
that
the
naturalism
is like
it then runs up against the limits, the more underlying thing that they need to represent you as a hero, right? Like that can't be. No, we can't do anything where you could play this game intentionally not being a hero.
But it's like when you try to figure out how to like code that into a game that it falls apart, because it's like, what is the difference when you're raiding like the equivalent of the Bin Laden compound between like there are mothers in that building. It's like, what is the difference between a mother you shoot that leads to a game over, and a mother you shoot where it's like, no, that was cool.
That was a bad mom.
That one was a bad one because she had like a gun in the room. It's like, would the good mom not also maybe at some points like reach for the gun?
What if the good mom was in a different room?
It's like they don't know that it's like Delta Force like parachuting on the roof. You know what I mean?
Right,
the whole thing is
And all God, all this shit is a mess. Good luck with Spec Ops Mode when that drops. Let me know what you think of the multiplayer. You've like dipped in. You haven't. Like,
I've dipped in. It's good.
Did you play the last? What was the last?
I've dipped into all of them pretty much.
Black Ops 4 was the last one, right? It was, because I remember the four Roman numeral I's next to each other. And,
it's interesting to like the later half of their pitch, which is like the guns.
Bro, the guns.
So bro, the guns.
Okay, I just actually remembered part of their pitch that specifically the thing was like, these guns are gonna make you feel fucking powerful, bro. And that was, I mean, I know it's been a face I wish I could capture. It was like, yeah.
No, it wasn't that. It was like, because I don't remember that. I don't remember you saying that to me. But the way I feel about the guns, which is like, look, it's Call of Duty. All you do in the game is shoot guns. It matters how the guns,
of course,
behave.
The reason I'm pulling it out is because like that was specifically the disconnect I had. Was the first part of the pitch was, you're going to feel serious feelings about the strength that you'll have at your disposal. Look at the ways in which maybe we should think twice before we deploy, blah, blah, blah. They didn't say it in that framing, but that was like the gesture, right? Because they actually made a comparison to the AC-130 level in Call of Duty. They compared the townhouse level, and I bet that if they had shown off the Bin Laden, the faux Bin Laden raid level, they would also make that comparison of like, hey, isn't it fucked up that there's this discrepancy in power? There's a discrepancy in the ability of force and technology between these two groups, and blah, 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 blah. But then the second half of that pitch was like, fucking shotgun with a grenade launcher on it. Like,
I mean, every game they say that they completely overhauled whatever. You know what I mean? I would say that it does feel like a slightly different game, because it's like Call of Duty got to a point where all the guns felt like laser pointers, which is totally. It's satisfying in the sense that they do what you want them to do. But now it feels like a little bit like a different game, because I don't know, the guns kick back in like a really aggressive, startling way.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that will fade.
As people just get used to it.
Yeah.
But on first blush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it works. Yeah.
I enjoyed the multiplayer time that I had with that game a
Yeah.
lot. And like that was the thing I wish I could have struggled with in that preview was like, hey, I'm very skeptical of their narrative pitch because of the way that they're emphasizing the technology over storytelling
Yeah.
or the way those two things don't align. But I also really enjoyed my time playing the multiplayer in this game. How do I square those two things?
Yeah.
And that is, I couldn't do that in that preview because I was not allowed to talk about having played the game, which
Yeah.
was frustrating, but also probably led to a more focused preview anyway.
Did you get a chance to play that like 64 player thing?
I did not. We did like 10v10 and then 2v2.
Yeah.
How was the 64 player thing?
I'm interested. I only played a couple of matches of it. I'm definitely interested in it. I love
Does
the
it feel like Battlefield? Like what's
It does a little bit. They're definitely taking some stuff from Battlefield in a sense that you can spawn on a squad of 5, I think,
Okay.
and you can squad on each member. You're like fighting for control points. Yeah, it feels like a bunch of small Call of Duty maps connected together, and I don't know. I need to play more, but it's definitely the only reason I will keep playing the game is if that part of it works, because the deathmatch stuff, it's what it's been. It's still that. I am not interested in doing that anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for giving us the rundown. Patrick, before we go, you also have a review up on the site of the opposite video game, Luigi's Mansion 3. I don't know. I guess you probably kill a bunch of ghosts in that.
Yeah.
That, in a sense, isn't Luigi doing a raid?
The ghosts are
Here's the thing:
The
bullets
ghosts are
come
dead.
out of your gun.
Create a ghost.
Ghosts go into the
gun.
vacuum.
Yeah.
Opposite.
It's a circle. You shoot someone with a gun to produce a ghost.
Right.
You use a vacuum to suck the ghost up, put it in your backpack, where they're slowly condensed into their bullet form. Then you shoot a ghost that is turned into a bullet into another person to create a new ghost. It's a cycle.
Gotcha.
How is Luigi's Mansion
Damn,
3?
Death Stranding's weird.
Wow. Honestly, that whole thing I just said could absolutely be in Death Stranding. 100% would
and
not.
you guys haven't played it, so it's like come at us, Sony.
Yeah.
Wait, we're after
don't have
them.
bullshit.
They can't break embargo.
Check out my
I don't know
fucking,
shit.
yeah, you check my account. I didn't play shit.
Yeah.
How is
Luigi's Mansion 3 perfectly competent. And I mean that like, for better and worse. Like it is not going to convert anyone that is not clicked with the Luigi's Mansion game in the past. It is not, as I put it in sort of like the head of the review, like hardly ambitious, but I had a lot of fun with it. It is what Luigi's Mansion has always been, which is you go around a bunch of like meticulously crafted rooms and hallways, blow the shit out of them with your vacuum, and then suck up the good stuff. It's and most of what you like suck up with your vacuum is money. And I had this like as I opened my review with like sort of this existential crisis about like it's a fairly long game. It took me 15 hours. I think it'll take people closer to like 12. I got like really hung up on a puzzle midway through that like made me want to throw my Switch, but I think I was just missing. It was just one of those where you miss something obvious, and I don't think other people will have the same issue with. But I got like 8 hours in, and I like got all this money, and I'm like, there's nothing to buy.
Yeah.
I'm like collecting all this money. I have so much money. You can buy extra lives, like for like the game. Surprisingly, difficult bosses will like revive you mid battle instead of going all the way to the beginning. You can buy markers for the map that let you find the game's 2 sets of collectibles.
You're not buying upgrades for your vacuum?
We're not buying anything.
You're not getting
Nothing. It's just
new
and that's like the
outfits
main
for-
thing you
for
do in this
Luigi?
game. Nothing.
You're not
Nothing.
getting-
nothing.
You bought it at all already?
There
Or
isn't
is there
anything.
nothing to buy in the first place?
They're just not. You collect all this money, and for what? Nothing. To
yeah.
collect the money, to
Luigi
collect
is
more
Jeff
money,
Bezos.
and but that has been Luigi's like for a little while. I was like, shit, like I'm having a moment over like what I've done for the last 8 hours, and the moment was because I'm having fun doing it. This is all pointless. Like this is not. There is no end to this. The end is this. Is just. It's cool to collect it for the sake of collecting it. And I'm usually someone that pushes back on that stuff. Like I've always made the argument that I think collectibles for collectibles' sake, in games like Uncharted, where it's just like, I don't know, you hit a statue around that corner. It was like not fun and enjoyable to do that. It's just there to give you a list to check off so that you get a trophy. And like I find that to be so empty. And usually Nintendo is a company that when they do collectibles, they're very smart about it. It's like the journey to get that collectible is enjoyable. The collectible is just the end of stage, like ta-da, like you did it. It's the collectible is just it's just there to have something at the end, but like how you got there, like the discovery, the secret, like the tug and pull you have with the designer to get there, that's the enjoyable part. And they're usually very good at that. But Luigi's Mansion is just like, not really. And it's just like the main thing you do in this game. Yes, you fight ghosts. Yes, you solve some puzzles. But like, the main thing you do is suction up money for no reason, for no end. But Luigi's Mansion has always been about that. The core of the game has always been being an agent of chaos, blowing up like meticulously crafted small rooms in which Luigi's Mansion 3, those rooms are more beautiful than ever.
And you can fuck them up.
You can fuck them up like in more ways than you've ever been able to before.
The big pitch at E3 was that they were like, each of the hotel floors has like a cool theme. So you're kind of getting a nice variety of locations and places. Does that mean that you can, like, how did that land for you? And does it make the rooms more fun to fuck up because they're themed differently?
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. It's like, yeah, there's a club one. Yes, there's a museum one. Like, there's a very liberal interpretation of like what happens in a hotel.
Yeah, what?
In Luigi's
I don't
Mansion
understand
3.
why there's like a medieval.
There's a straight up, Oh, dude, there's a straight up museum that has like houses an enormous Tyrannosaurus Rex, and it's like, cool, whatever. Like, it's I mean, I laughed when I did a stream this morning, and I mentioned that my Luigi's Mansion review is going live, and I can't tell if this person was being serious or not because I've lost the plot at this point on what is and isn't a spoiler in a review. Was like, are there any story spoilers? And I was like, my friend, there is nothing to spoil. Like, Luigi's Mansion 3 does not. It has a plot. It does not have a story because it's just not. It's a means to an end. It's like he goes to a mansion and his friends are kidnapped, so he can go through these floors, right?
Games
like,
are
it's just
fucking
there
wild, aren't
to give
they?
an excuse.
Because like, I was thinking about this with Outer Worlds too. Of like, how much of the so specifically, I was trying to figure out why is it that I haven't. Not trying to figure out, like, I wasn't like a fucking calculation. It was a thought I had, like, in the shower, was like, why have I put so much fucking time in Outer Worlds and none into Disco Elysium? And the answer is, like, Disco Elysium requires a different sort of work than Outer Worlds. I like Outer Worlds the way, like, someone might like rowing a boat, which is like, there's a mechanics of what I'm doing. There is like a motion that I'm going through when I shoot someone in the head and go over and loot their corpse in Outer Worlds, and when I clear a room, and that's just like, I'm doing this thing. This is I like doing this dance. Like, this is a dance I like. And I like Disco Elysium too, but it's like reading a book in contrast. It's like very intent. I'm using different muscles, video games. And so like Luigi's Mansion, it's like, do you like blowing shit up in a room and then sucking up all that stuff in a vacuum and then like doing that motion and seeing that cool stuff happen? It's like a hobby in a sense. This is not new, you know what I mean? But I do think the way you get to like, are there any story spoilers, is because we've convinced ourselves that video games are narrative devices and maybe not necessarily spend as much time being like, sometimes they're fun. They're toys. They're fun toys that we play with, and that's not a drag on Luigi's Mansion. That's a thumbs up to
Luigi's
toys.
Mansion is a toy.
Yeah,
it's like it is like if Mario's verb is jump and Luigi's Mansion's verb is like the suctioning. It's like if that interaction like doesn't like provide any joy for you, like if you do not get any response out of like blowing this wind around a room and watching what happens, like nothing else works in the game. Like it is all like so much of the game is buffered by whether that particular mechanic like works for you. And if it goes over your head, like it's not like there's other parts, like in Outer Worlds, like the combat's you could delete it and like it's fine. But most people are there for the story, and the combat like buffers in between. Like there's other things to grapple onto, and in Luigi's Mansion, like the thing you grapple onto is this. And if you've liked it before, which I did, like I liked it in Luigi's Mansion. I didn't play Dark Moon, but I'm sure I would have had a similar reaction, in which like this is enough. But I will say the end of Luigi's Mansion 3, like got to the end and was like, okay, this won't be. I mean, take 5 years off and whatever. Like plenty of things seem fresh again, but like. They're revisiting Luigi's Mansions at a pace now where it's like I expect another one of these in
3 years.
3 years. I don't know that I'm gonna be able to like get the energy to like. I feel like I've suctioned up like enough shit. Like they need to put Luigi's Mansion like whatever that is It doesn't need to be an open world, right? Like that
Open
the solution to like
world.
Have Luigi raid Bin Laden's compound.
Suck up all the coins.
Yeah. To what you were saying about like different kinds of play and like what you feel like playing at the moment. My wife doesn't play games at all, and she asked me once, like, what do you like? Like, what makes you like a game more than another game? And I said, I like games that are more like a really good bouncy ball than a good book. It's like I really like games that are toys, more than I do.
We had this conversation earlier this year, which was like Sekiro broke you because you loved it so much. I broke your taste for games.
Oh yeah,
We're like,
sure.
There were months where you were like, you'd come over to me like, what are you playing? What are you playing right now? Like looking for a fix because nothing had given you the like kinetic high that Sekiro had.
Yeah.
You're like, what is it, Rebel Galaxy Outlaw? I
convinced myself that it's that, but it wasn't.
I knew it wasn't. I knew
Yeah.
it wasn't. It's fine. That game's all right.
It's good. It's good.
But it wasn't going to go like Sekiro is such a distinct thing. It's a really good bouncy ball.
So far this year, nothing has topped the bouncy ballness of like doing the counters in Sekiro. Like nothing comes close.
Yeah. That feeling is so fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh man, video games. It's a good year for them. You should play Outer Wilds.
Yeah,
Not
that
Worlds.
seems like a novel.
It's
Not- less like a bouncy ball.
There are bouncy ball elements because you're like, all right, I got to fucking land this ship on this moon. Like, how do I do that? And then you get there is once you get over the.
Wait, did you say
actually-
Outer
it's-
Worlds
it's a
or
bouncy
Wild.
Okay,
I said
yes,
Wilds.
yes,
This time I actually said the right thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Outer Wilds.
I heard it wrong.
Has a good bouncy ballness to it.
Okay, great.
It also is a great story.
Yeah.
Every 1 second. I have to open my email. I'm opening my email right now because we got a letter about this, and I want to read it. I'm going to not read the whole thing because I'm spoiler conscious with the game that I love. If I type in Outer Wilds here, we got an email. Using the email as a question bucket. gaming@vice.com. All right, Tim writes in, subject line, yo, this game kicks ass, huh? Started playing Outer Wilds after you talked about it, and damn, this is a game, huh? Like, everything is cool. There is so much wild stuff to see, and the story is wild. They tried to, failed, and they all, because of, like, hundreds of thousands of, and then video games are great, y'all. Fucking love these things. Peace. Shout outs to Tim. Everyone should play Outer Wilds. Everyone should play Outer Wilds. Give it 90 minutes. If you hate it, it's okay, move on. But it is a special game that people should play. Outer Wilds is my, like, it's not my Sekiro, because Sekiro is my Sekiro. I love Sekiro a lot, too. Good year for video games. I think that's going to do it for us. We even dipped in the question bucket. You can follow me on Twitter at Austin_Walker. Patrick, where can people find you?
You can find me at Patrick Klebeck. I just want to share this tweet from Open Critic, which is an alternative to Metacritic. If I'm sure everyone you've seen a GIF from the new WWE game, which seems to be
so
just
fucking good.
Absolutely.
those games are often disasters. But this one seems to be, it's the first time they switched from Ukes to an internal 2K team. And it just seems to have gone, they needed to give those folks another year to find their footing. They did not, and they pushed this game out the door. So Open Critic shared in this tweet, it says, one nice thing we can say about WWE 2K20, it helped us find a display bug. When 0% of critics recommend a game, we incorrectly displayed percentage question instead of 0%. Fixed in the next deploy.
Wow. Miserable. There's other news and stuff we could hit today. Overwatch 2 is apparently happening. There's other stuff we could talk about. I said we kicked that stuff to Friday.
Yeah, we'll get to that when that stuff
happens. Yeah.
BlizzCon will be this
Is
weekend.
that this? Whoa.
It's this weekend.
Okay.
BlizzCon is this weekend?
Yeah.
BlizzCon.
So we'll see how that goes. We'll be back on Friday to talk more. We'll talk about Death Stranding on Friday. Is that correct?
We can.
I'm so excited to hear about people talk about Death Stranding.
When does that game come out? Is it on Friday?
I think it comes out November 8th.
A week after.
A week
that.
after.
It
Okay.
comes
What a
out-
miserable
yeah.
week that's going to be for me. I'm just,
Yeah.
I want to play. I don't care. I don't care what that game is. I don't care if it's good.
Same.
I need to do it myself. I have
Look,
the impulse.
you know what? At this point, like Call of Duty, like we've been so exhausted by the COD discourse
Yes.
that even like a game like COD where you can shoot a baby like doesn't like barely register.
I got to carry a
But
baby across the country.
The thing what the world needs is that the Kojima discourse is always like it's just unbelievable.
All the way through the
like,
roof.
It's just everywhere. It doesn't matter if the game's good or bad. Like Hideo Kojima, like he brings it for the critics.
Yeah,
the
man.
critics,
For the discourse.
Just we're gonna chatter away. We're gonna have takes. There's gonna be bad takes. There's gonna be good takes.
Amazon same day shipping.
Amazon. That's the whole game. The whole game is Amazon same day shipping.
I didn't say that.
Okay, yeah, you didn't say that. You did. I did. I'm saying the premise of the game is you're a shipment. You're the person.
Sony PR.
Okay, you can't say
Austin
shit.
said
yeah,
it.
no,
this is
nobody
good.
said-
This is I'm like train. I'm like throwing beanbags at you, like block, bop, bop. We got you in the Karate Kid like danger zone. You're blocking all the shit I'm throwing at you. God damn. All right, Death Stranding on Friday. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some other stuff too. Catch us then. Twitter.com/Waypoint. Emanuel, where are you on Twitter? Wait, I didn't. Only Patrick talked. Kata, where are you? I'm gonna come around to Emanuel.
At @A_Kato_appears.
Emanuel.
Ask.bargains. Put it in your URL. You'll find
What?
me. Yeah.
Ass bargains.
Ass.bargains.
Bargains.
No, I'm putting in ass.
That is it. No, that is correct. Ass.bargains. That is the correct.
Oh, okay, great.
You did not mishear. Ass.bargains. What a great URL. Welcome to the URL club. You can find us. You can find our forums at discourse.zone. You can find out more about Bowen, who let us use the track Miss You, at waypoint.zone/BOEN. What are our URL game? Our URL game is much smaller than it used to be. I think once we stopped streaming, we started.
Did we let
losing
some
URLs.
domains go?
They weren't ever ours. The only one that I have hands on
This is a call to
is
action.
waypoint.zone because I bought it. And then that's me. That's just out of pocket. But we never got a motherboard.tv like y'all got back in the day, Emanuel.
Yeah.
Vice ain't shell out shit for digital pyramids or whatever. I don't know what we have left. I'll have to do a
Haunted
survey.
Domains.
Is that still up?
I'm pretty sure Haunted Domains.
Haunted.domains?
I believe that's what it was. Yeah.
Haunted.domains.
You can have Refinery
Ooh,
29.
I don't think that's
if
a
you
real
want it.
thing. Oh, it's haunted. Wow. You just put that out there.
Wow.
Ooh, spicy. Getting spicy on the mic. All right, we're going to wrap up now before Emanuel gets too spicy about the place we work at. Thank you to everyone for listening. We'll be back on Friday.
Let's talk about snacks.
Let's talk about snacks. Let's talk what happened. All right,
Wait,
real quick.
hold on.
Time
Sound
out.
fresh.
Time out. We got this. We're doing the Waypoint thing.
Oh, God damn it.
No, it's fine. So there was a thing that happens in media is that media reports on media, and a thing that's happened for us for years has been articles that come out and they go like, "Yo, the situation at Vice is dire," and sometimes, let me tell you, the situation at Vice is dire. We've lived through it. We've gone through low moments. An article came out fairly recently, last few months, before the Refinery 29 stuff. That was like, blah, 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 here's where morale is at, here's concerns about blah, 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 TV show, da, 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 da. It's the business. I don't mind saying that this is conversations. But in it, someone definitely reported to whoever that reporter was about the current snack situation here. And I've never felt more embarrassed to be like a New York media person than some, like, I want to be, one, the snack situation here got dire. I'm not saying that that's not true. But two, if
Can you describe what that means at least? Like, what does that mean?
Okay, so the two big ones for me are,
Okay.
this time last year, what was the drink situation like?
An assortment of sodas,
An
including
assortment
Diet
of
Coke.
sodas,
Hold
including
on.
Diet Coke.
3 options is
free
not an
beer.
assortment.
No, that's not true. It was way more than that. It was way more than 3.
What?
Yeah, absolutely.
I never saw anything other than Diet Coke, Coke, and ginger ale.
Oh, God, there was a time when you could get a cherry Coke here.
What the
Yeah.
There was a time
fuck?
when you could
Coke
get
Zero. Coke Zero.
Zeros. You could get seltzer waters
Jesus
of flavors.
Christ.
It was great. It was a cornucopia. On the
Fuck.
snack front, you had full bags of fruit snacks. You had, I mean, you know, so right now it's like what? Various nuts. Are there cereals are still here?
Cereal.
Cereals.
What else?
Yogurts.
Yogurts and string cheeses. It's great.
It's all about just stuff.
There's a bunch of stuff.
Fresh fruit.
Kind bars, fresh fruits. I think the snack situation is kind of fine. It's the beverage situation that had me a little tipsy. You know what I mean? Actually, not tipsy because as Patrick points out, they got rid of beer.
Yeah.
We own a beer company, but the beer is gone. So do we still own that beer
I don't know.
company?
Are they still making?
I don't know. There was a brewery in this building briefly that was a fake brewery.
Correct.
But took up space. Anyway, the point is, if someone called me, if someone was like, hey, is this Austin Walker? I'm media elite so-and-so, and we're going to run a story about how you're disgruntled at work. Tell me what's up. I would never in my life be like, I miss when we had fruit snacks.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, if you're listening to the podcast and you're in a place of business and someone's like, hey, yo, what's up? What's the situation there? Please be like, I want there to be better ways for our freelancers to get paid quickly instead of, it would be cool if we had the fruit snacks again.
Yeah. The snacks are a distraction. Condé
snacks
Nast has a vending machine. It's okay.
Right. No, that's
Yeah.
the thing is I used to
Yeah.
be at CBS Interactive. We didn't get free shit. We got free sodas. Free sodas and you know, a Bagel Friday because it's New York. But no, it was all vending machines. Of course it was like Outer Worlds out here. I'm out there like swiping my card trying to trick it into giving me an extra thing. Anyway, my point is complain about the material situation.
Correct.
Please don't complain about not having peanut butter M&Ms anymore, even though peanut butter M&Ms were dope.
Dope, yeah, good.
So, all right, that's
Well
going to do it.
Do you remember what this is about? Oh, I lost it. Fuck.
I don't.
It had to do with birds.
Is it the art?
Oh, did you learn that .bird.school?
What?
Did you learn that at .bird.school?
What are you talking about?
I mean, that's one of our redirects.
Bird.school?
Yeah. Did you learn that at bird school?
Wait, is the whole thing is a redirect?
Yeah. Did you learn that at .bird.school?
.bird.school?
Yeah.
At .bird.school?
No. Just .bird.school.
Did you learn that bird school?
No, did you learn that at?
That's what I said.
But not the at symbol.
We're doing an Abbott and Costello bit.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a real one. What is that referencing?
I don't know. That's what I'm wondering.
A thing that happens because we talk into microphones a lot, and I've to the degree that I've told this bit before, is people will be like, we'll just tweet a joke at you that you said out of context from last week. And it'll just be like a phrase like, did you learn that at bird school? And I'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Who said shit about bird school? I'm ending the podcast. We've gone too long.
Oh, that one doesn't work anymore.
See, this is the thing. We got to do a what do you call it when you an audit of all of our domains, a domain audit. Catch me at domain.audit. I'm gonna go home. You should go home. Fuck capitalism.
Austin Walker games /
Go home.
games.
Right, I'm going
Fuck
home.
capitalism. Go
Question
home.
mark
told me to
games
go home.
equals games at
Fuck
Austin
capitalism.
Walker equals games.
Go
dot
home.
Games. Hash games.
Wow, big Patrick in front of us now. Just Patrick. All right, we are back.
Wait.
We're not back.
No, not back. Hold on. New mic entering
Wait.
the situation.
Thank you for waiting, Emanuel.
Oh, no worries.
Apologies.
Okay. Talking to that mic.
Hello. Am I good?
Yeah, you should be good. We just played Flappy Bird.
I think that might have been one of the greatest levels I've ever played, Kato.
Wow.
Honestly, straight up.
Wow.
It's pretty good.
I felt like I was going to unlock the mysteries of the universe at the end. Cthulhu was going to emerge.
You had me, and then should Mario be unlocking Cthulhu? Like, is that a transcendent experience?
I honestly felt like I was going at the end, the what's the equation they're talking about in Outer Worlds? Whatever that is.
The equation.
The equation. I found it. That's the music in that level was the equation.
What was that song?
I don't know.
I
It
feel
felt
like
like something normal, like slowed down.
Yeah.
But like it was just it was eerie. It, like legitimately like unnerving. The whole experience. Optimizing for flaps, that's a new one for me playing
good.
Mario.
Oh, right. No one's sitting on anything that I don't know about, right? Like in terms of games. So it's all shit that has been pretty well.
No, Luigi, Outer Worlds,
Yep.
and COD.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
I was at a restaurant and I was sitting next to a group of guys who I slowly realized were wannabe YouTubers.
Great.
And it was, when I started to clue in like what they were all about was when one of them started holding forth on how Pro Jared set himself up. And
no.
let himself.
Excuse?
But yeah, dude, it wasn't. It wasn't Pro Jared did nothing wrong. The take was Pro Jared was wrong because he let himself get caught being a creep.
Right.
That was the take, and I was like, okay, like. So
It
I
didn't get
started
a lot of. Were they talking about the like? So he did that like apology, and then he did a non-apology. This is a little while ago. It didn't get like any mainstream attention, but he did like a 90-minute. I'm gonna show you the receipts. video.
Yeah.
I got like 10 minutes in and pieced out, but it's
So to complete the picture, so MK heard this part. Later, she was like, "Yeah, one of them was." They were talking about like if you ever got a celebrity on your channel, and one of them was talking about like if you had someone like Rihanna on your channel, like you wouldn't want it to get like too sexual and be like weird with your guest, but if it got sexual, that'd be good content. And
It's
when
not.
What?
It's not gonna.
dude, when my guys got up and paid for the dinner, one of them like put his headphones back on because you gotta rep the life.
Yeah.
The other dude, I shit you not, had a model Negan bat from The Walking Dead, and it was like the dirtbag trifecta. They were all like 18.
Yeah,
if
of course.
if they were a like, it was rough, man. It was like being like
Bad.
there's so much bad YouTube culture, and like it was sort of a firsthand like, oh man, people do just aspire to be like a YouTube piece of garbage. Like in the vein of like the most garbage YouTubers, they're like, yeah, that's for me.
Fucking hell. God.
At least there's teenagers making great memes about history on TikTok.
At least there's that.
That's
You're
the
right.
thing. We needed a bunch of TikTok teens to show up and just wreck those kids.
That would have been the best. Honestly.
We needed like the bathroom stall rodeo teens to show up and just like hog tie those kids.
All right. We should do a clap.
Yeah, we should.
Do you want to do 15?
Yeah.
Oh, hold on.
Okay. Let's do 20 then.
Sorry, I was tweeting out my review.
No worries. Okay.
I didn't hear the acknowledgement on 20. Can we do 30?
Sure. I was not there yet. Let's do 40. I thought I'd get there. I really did.
Patrick, get
Kato,
ready.
put
We're
it
doing
in.
40. We're doing 40.
All right.
Okay.
Well, you know what? I'm taking a sip of coffee. It sounds like we are out of sync this morning. So,
No, we are. Mm-hmm. That was my mistake this morning. Not getting coffee.